If you've ever wondered what makes actually a video go viral or how to actually edit a video that gets millions of views, you are at the right place, because this is the breakdown I wish I had when I first started editing videos. Because the video I'm about to break down helped the YouTube channel get over 2.2 million views. And today I'm going to show you exactly how it was built, right on the original timeline. And just to give some context, a few months ago, I recorded this full in-depth breakdown lesson for my private editing community, essentially showing the exact timeline of a viral video that I have edited, showing every single animation, my music choices, and even the B-roll I used, and even where I got some of my assets from. And now, normally only members of my paid community get access to breakdowns like these. But today, I'm dropping this full lesson on YouTube for free as a gift for you. And if you're truly serious about getting better as an editor, then this isn't just a video, it is a shortcut. So if you want more lessons like these, and if you want to learn how to go from editing simple videos to working with top creators and building a real income and becoming one of the most in-demand editors in your niche, then check out the Editing Elite, my private community where I teach editors how to go from 0 to 5K per month and beyond. So click the first link down below, and with that said, let's get into this breakdown. Welcome to the second editing breakdown in this module. So today we're breaking down my second most successful video that got a lot of views. It got 2 million views, almost 2.1 million views, and it is essentially this video right here. I'm just gonna place myself into the corner for the rest of the video, and it is Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Investing in Stocks. So this video is in the finance/stocks niche. This is essentially a full 1 hour video, and yeah, it has a couple of presentations elements, of course, in it. So it is not, I would say, 100% edited, but most of the video is edited essentially. So it is more scaled, so the aesthetics and the look and the animations are more higher quality than the first video that we broke down on in this module. So essentially this video is a step better. So it was posted 2 months later than the video you saw that I broke down first. So this video was posted the 15th of February essentially, and I received the files and I started working on this on the 8th of February. So essentially it was around 1 week-ish that I had to work on this video, and it's an hour long again. I would say it was exactly like 7 days after I received the files and started working on it that we posted this video. So essentially like 5 to 6 days around that time to get the video done. And then I got revisions, and then after the revisions, I uploaded it to YouTube, essentially on the same day, I guess we posted it, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so this is essentially, if your question is like, okay, how long does it take for you to cut a 1 hour video? Of course, this has some presentations in it where I don't have to animate and all that stuff, or some phone tutorials or whatever that I didn't need to cut. So essentially, let's just say I animate like 20 minutes or like 30 minutes. So then it's still like 6 to 7 days. That is around the time frame, because we uploaded exactly like 7 days later. And yeah, so with that being said, it got 2 million views, and I don't want to check the comments right now, but essentially, when I checked it the first time before I did not watch the video, by the way. I'm starting it kind of like from scratch. I just watched a couple first seconds, which has a really cool animation in it that I really want to break down. I really want you to see this animation. And besides that, the comment section was really good. All the people that we helped, essentially, not only me with the editing part, but rather than the team as well. With the revisions, I got a lot of feedback to my editing, what I could do better. With the part that we did research, with the part that we put together the presentation. So this team, essentially, I only did the editing part. So kudos to this team. This video is a well-deserved 2 million views video. And this video essentially got 2 million views because it's actually a really good topic that a lot of people want to know more about. So this is a really good packaging, and it's a really good, essentially, video in itself. So with that being said, I'm super proud of this video, how it turned out. And now let's get into the timeline. And this timeline looks also a little bit more different than the one that you saw in the first episode. And yeah, it is a lot more chaotic. It is definitely all over the place. And not only that, we had an After Effects file that I actually needed to search up a lot of stuff, so it had a lot of files. There's actually, I think, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos worth of animations in this. So what I'm trying to say is I think in this particular After Effects file is probably 10,000 files in it. So there's like, I think like 5 to 6 projects that I edited in this After Effects file, and I do not recommend it to anyone. This is the first kind of like hack that I want you guys to tell is like always have like a template, but don't reuse a lot of like the previous projects as your After Effects file for the next project because it's going to be laggy. And I also got like twice the autosave in After Effects kicking in. So it autosaved the project and it took literally like 30 seconds or like a little bit longer to save this project. And this means like maybe nothing to you, but essentially should just take maybe like 3 to 4 seconds or like max 10 seconds. But it took 3 times the amount to autosave this, and I cannot tell you like how many like so many compositions in this. You can already see this is already 40 animations here, and then we have like another 50 animations in here. We have another 59 animations. It's like 100 animations in here. These are some files. Another 36 animations for another video. Another 56. And then another, whoa, this is 129 animations for the guide to start YouTube channel. And then we have another 60 animations in, I think that's like 200, 300 animations in this one project. And we haven't even counted these ones. So it's like 40 again. And yeah, so essentially the organization is really lacking. Let me just fix that real quick. Oh, there we go. We have actually already a folder for that. So this means we have even more compositions in here. And I think I've also pretty much found almost every single file. I think there's like maybe less than 10 files that are missing in this project. I hope we didn't use them essentially with these animations. And I also hope that essentially the animations that I break down will be smooth to showcase, as I don't want you guys to be waiting essentially in this video or have like a negative experience because because I have a lot of these things stored on a backup drive. So that means when it's stored on a backup drive, which is pretty much slower than an SSD or slower than my computer, then it's also a little bit slower to load in After Effects because it needs to find the file, it needs to run up the file and all that stuff. So it will be a little bit longer probably than the first essentially video that we broke down, or maybe it will also be slower because I covered a lot of principles already in the first video. So in this video, I will try to focus more on the things that we didn't cover and also on animations a little bit more and also a bit more on sound design as well because we have more sound design here than in the last video. So first, again, what we're going to do is I'm going to break down the animations, the B-roll, whatever that we used or whatever hacks or whatever tips I have for you. So first we're going to break down the visual side and then we're going to break down the sound design at the end. And then after that, I have also another couple of questions, essentially Q&A stuff that we will do at the very end, okay? With that being said, we don't want to waste too much time. Let's get into the video. So this is essentially the timeline that we have here. Usually my timeline doesn't look like this anymore. My timeline for the previous video, I've showed that timeline for the previous video. My timeline looks completely flat. Oops, pardon me. My timeline looks completely flat, and then there is like just animations on top of it, and then some little bit of B-roll on top of it, and yeah. So this is essentially just madness for me even to say that. So this was essentially a year ago when I edited this video, and like in 3 days it will be a year ago when I started editing this video, and it is pretty insane just to see how I worked back then. It is crazy to me and how I could just find myself around here and do some editing changes, have like 10,000 files in the After Effects. But yeah, so essentially what we're gonna do now is in terms of that it doesn't lag or we have like a smoother experience, I actually downloaded the video and I placed it on top of this video. But essentially this is the same one-to-one key like frame, okay? So just that we have a smoother experience, and then I have all the files here that we're going to open up in After Effects and break it down. So with that being said, enough talking, let's get started.
Now, I believe you've discovered this video at one of the best times in the history of investing into the stock market. This is because in the past several years, we've gone through some of the craziest moments in human history, including a global pandemic, record-breaking inflation, and the most debt this country has ever seen from the amount of money that was printed in the past few years. But here's the thing, out of chaos comes opportunity, and the aftermath of this global crisis has created a landscape ripe for new investors like yourself to come in and make generational wealth for you and your family. Today, right in this moment, marks the beginning of a new era, and it's almost...
All right, so I just played the first 30 seconds of this video, and yeah, so this was essentially the first 30 seconds of the video that you will see when you click on this video. So you might notice there's like a lot of elements that we're gonna break down. We're gonna break down the animation first. Let's get started with that. So the way we started this video off is essentially me having not... Like in the first video, we had the After Effects essentially, and we used that to kind of like zoom in on the video. But here what we did, essentially just zoomed in Premiere Pro. And the reason being is that I didn't want to use After Effects for this because I think I just had an issue that I didn't know how to use the LUT or how to color the After Effects file within, because we usually just use the coloring in Premiere Pro. And I didn't bother to find out the solution for that and how to export the LUT from Premiere Pro into After Effects. But nevertheless, we kind of like managed to make it as smooth as possible. So what we did here is we zoomed in. As you can see on the keyframes here, we had a slight zoom in the start, and then we had this position and scale keyframe that switches here. So this is essentially, so this is essentially, if I turn this off, you can see this is essentially the screen that we have on below this layer. This is the exported version of the composition here in After Effects. So, and essentially this is this is the animation that essentially is below this this main camera, okay? And in Premiere Pro. And we have the rendered version because otherwise this would take a lot of time to render out and just tweak as well in Premiere Pro, because if you just, you know, import with a dynamic link into Premiere Pro from After Effects, then you will have a little bit of harder time. You need to export some stuff. It's not as smooth as you would work in After Effects or as smooth as you would just work with normal Premiere Pro files, or for both. And that's why I exported essentially this animation from After Effects, placed it on the timeline, and then what I did was adjust this video on top. So we had the rotation, we had the opacity, we had a crop as well, that all played together. We went from this big picture, essentially if we just, you can see, this is what it looked like, essentially the A-cam only essentially here. And then we just had the opacity going up, and we just switched to this screen here. This was the very first animation, and my reason for like essentially just picking this animation, I just had this idea. Okay, I had this idea. Let us listen to the audio.
Now, I believe you've discovered this video at one of the best times in the history of investing into the stock market.
Okay, so we had the text. You've discovered this video. So essentially, whenever someone is like watching a video, they have it and they're watching it on the laptop, they have it opened like this on a window, okay, like this. And essentially I was like, okay, well, let me just blend that in, but that would be just a little bit, you know, boring. So essentially I just wanted to make an animation, so like something like looks really cool. So I had this idea, why not just have this animation on a screen and then have the stock chart pop up, and then also some money as well on the side that pops up and it counts up. We have trading view, which everyone knows essentially who's trading, everyone uses it, and it is pretty popular within the stocks, finance, trading kind of niche. It's really popular. And then we have essentially the YouTube video that we pretty much fade into or just fades out in the background. So you discovered this video in the history of trading. So we definitely need to turn off the autosave, because other than that it will just take up too much time. So we have autosave turned off. All right, so it's a little bit smoother for us to work or to break down this timeline. And yeah, so I was like, well, he's like stock market and discovered this video, and this is how essentially this animation came to life. This animation was pretty advanced for me at that time because it required a lot of just working with different kind of stuff that I didn't know before. So essentially what we did here is we worked with 3D, but we didn't use a camera, which is kind of like a bummer. I should have used the camera here, would have been easier. However, how we did this essentially is I had this AI animation. Let me actually find this if I can. Oh yeah, it was this animation, okay? And no, the Porsche and the essentially the dock and the MacBook dock there was not there. I edited it in Photoshop. So essentially we got this PSD file, which means this is a Photoshop file, and I'm just gonna open this up, and which you can see, this is essentially the file that I got, and this was created by AI. Of course, not the screen. The screen looked like this, and then what I did is I cut out the screen, kind of like tried to perfectly fit it, and then I just essentially placed a green screen on it. Let me just open this up, and I just kind of like placed a Porsche background with some MacBook dock on it, essentially. So this is what it looked like. If let me just show you. This is how I looked like essentially, and then what I did, like this is how it looked, the animation. What I did is I cut out the guy, okay, then it looked like this, and then I cut out the desk, and then it looked like this. So we had the background essentially that we could essentially move around without moving around the desk or the guy. And then we had the desk, which we can move around without moving around the background and the guy or the screen, whatever. But then we had also the guy, which we can also move around and essentially just move from left to right if we want to, just to give the image some motion. Even if this is just an image, we can give it some motion by keyframing positions or scaling in, and essentially just keeping the background as it is or the desk as it is. We can move around the background if we want to give the video some motion essentially, or this image some motion. And yeah, so I added some the green screen here on the computer screen that AI has created, and then I also added the Porsche background that kind of like a lot of people like this Porsche. Dude, this is such a beautiful car, so I was like, well, I had this background in my mind for at that time probably, so I just went ahead and used this background, downloaded it from wherever, and then I added also this MacBook dock at the bottom, which is pretty low quality and it's pretty stretched, but it is what it is. We can't change it anymore. This is essentially just what I used. And let me just, this visible again. And then we added some Gaussian blur on it, I guess. Not sure why, but we had some Gaussian blur on it. And then what we did is we actually just saved this file as, and we just dragged and dropped this PSD file that we got, this Photoshop file, essentially into After Effects. And now you can see these blue icons at the bottom here. These are essentially the Photoshop files here. Let me just don't save. And what you can do here is you have essentially the whole project from Photoshop in this After Effects composition. So I can just remove the background if I want to. I can remove the desk if I want to, or also the screen. And yeah, essentially this is it, and I can just also parent and link this screen to the desk as well, which is the reason I also removed the screen and had it separately. So I can essentially just parent this to here, and I can also just add stuff to the screen rather than have all the files on the desk, which is just makes it a little bit easier to work on if we need to. So I'm not sure if you did understand. We have like 4 files: background, the desk, the screen, which is essentially placed on top of the monitor. The monitor's on the desk layer, and then we had the guy, okay, which is here on the right side. So we can also just move around the guy. So from here, essentially, you can see we had the guy. He was a little bit zoomed in. He was keyframed differently than the desk, or essentially the screen, and it was also differently keyframed than the background. So all of these 3 had a different kind of keyframing, different kind of speed, which means it created this little 3D effect, okay? As if this wasn't an image, but rather just like a motion graphics animation. And not only this, but we also had these windows popping up, which I want to talk about now. So let's just break down this. We have the background. It had some blur on it, otherwise it would just peek out a little bit more, but we didn't want to do that. And then we had some vignette on the background, so behind the screen essentially. and then all these things were 3D'd, and I think they had a null object or something, or they just had separate yeah, they all had separate keyframes essentially. What I would do now is probably had separate keyframes and also have a null object. But yeah, this is how I just worked at that time. And there is this adjustment layer which doesn't serve a purpose, I think. But yeah, so I will be a bit confused about my decisions back then because it was almost a year ago. So I cannot remember every single thing. I can just remember the most important things here or a couple details. So with that being said, we had also some brightness and contrast added to the screen as well. So it just looks good, essentially. This is what we wanted to have. And also, by the way, these things were placed on it. So this is what it would look like without all those pop-ups. This is what it would look like. This has some brightness and contrast on it just to make it more pop. The hue and the saturation as well is just to serve a little bit more pop feeling. Looks a little bit better, a little bit more saturated. And then we had also some deep glow, which looks good in my opinion on a screen, especially when it's like so dark like here. Turn all this stuff back on because now we're going to break down essentially the animations that popped up on the screen. So we had the first couple seconds in this animation, just Brian essentially talking, and we had then a movement in it, okay? So this was all timed. I timed it in Premiere Pro when we're gonna essentially switch to this screen, to this animation, so I can just time it in Premiere Pro and also in After Effects. So when do we need movement, whatever, and then once everything was looking good, then I rendered it out and I tested it even further and I adjusted it essentially in Premiere Pro. So let's open up the YouTube UI composition. So this is what it looks like. I think this could be just from one of the websites. I just changed up a couple of things. Yeah, this is actually it. It is nothing special. This is just in the UI. Today, what I would do differently is maybe just make the UI a little bit more clean because this looks a little bit old, a little bit horrible in my opinion. But it serves the purpose, of course. We don't want to, just be too critical here. This serves the purpose pretty well. So there is definitely some aesthetics that we can improve, essentially for the next project, because this doesn't look, I think, as high quality as possible and as also easy to understand as possible. We could definitely make it more simpler and more aesthetic, in my opinion, like the whole composition itself. Of course, perform good, but this is just a tip. And also the subscribe button has no like font on it, which is also pretty funny. Oh no, I just deactivated it. But yeah, and then we had the YouTube UI, and then we had also this recording that was also 3D'd, that was also linked to the screen, and essentially this was 3D and had also deep glow as well. Yeah, everything has deep glow essentially on it. And yeah, so this was essentially just scaled down, and we just increased the exposure of the deep glow in the background so it's a little bit more shiny. Also for the YouTube UI as well, we increased the exposure in the background so it looks a little bit shiny, it looks really clean in the background. I'm not sure if it did actually hurt it or did it make it better. I just thought at that time it looks good. So essentially what we did is we just added this, had a 3D file, we printed it to the screen, and we also scaled it down because if we wouldn't have scaled it down, then it would look this big here, okay? So this would stick out here. So this is why it's scaled down here. It is not that big of a difference. It is not really essential. It is just to make sure that it sticks behind this little YouTube tab. And then we had an adjustment layer, which I don't have used, so I just didn't use them, but yeah, whatever. What we did have then is this trading view. So trading view is essentially, I just talked about it already, but this is essentially a background. So we had a Safari window essentially cut out from Mac, and then we just placed it on top. And then we had essentially had this rectangle that has a drop shadow on it just to differentiate from the background. Otherwise, it would just blend into too much. So we had a little bit more drop shadow on it. And also, let me turn off this this grain and this turbulent displays. I think this looks a little bit more clean. So just easier for you. I used a lot of noise back then, and I used a lot of turbulent displays, posterized time, and all that stuff. So yeah, this is why the footage looks a little bit different from what I animate nowadays, or why it looks a little bit low quality or whatever. That's also in half. Otherwise, we would have a lot of lags because there's a lot going on in this animation, in this scene. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is we had a rectangle essentially, and then we added, I think, did we mask it? We didn't. We did actually mask this to the rectangle so that it fits perfectly. We added on top of it, and then we had also this stock chart. Let me actually open this up. You can see it's a stock chart that we actually just masked out. So if we click on the mask here, we essentially just, we can't see the mask, right? Well, yeah, here we can see the mask. So you can see the mask essentially just goes from left to right, and it just looks like the stocks, the stock can also actually just arriving on the screen, but this is actually just a mask and just some feathering as well. So this looks super clean in my opinion, and it was just an idea for me, like how can I just actually show a stock chart. I think I even tried it with stock footage, like not stock chart like we have some stock chart stock footage essentially blending in, but didn't look good. So I just actually just took a picture of a stock chart and just masked it out so the candles go from left to right. But I think if we play the Premiere Pro version without the sound, you can see it a little bit better. Yeah, so it was really fast, of course, but you could just see there's like a little bit of feather on it, and we just went with the masking from left to right just to initiate like that the stock candles are like actually arriving on screen. Okay, this is kind of like a funny approach to it. I think a really creative approach to it. We had the TradingView logo also placed on top of it, and I think also in, no, it's not in 3D. So yeah, but it looked good. I just want to have it a little bit bigger. We could have also removed the TradingView text as well and just have the logo itself. It would look a little bit cleaner. I can just recommend it for next time, but here I just kept it as it is. And we also had this little animation on the right side. This is essentially it's just a picture that I took from somewhere, I guess, like a wallet picture, and I just put like two animations on it, like two text animations, like these rising numbers animations on it. Essentially, the rising number animation is pretty easy to make. If you don't know, you essentially have the source text, and you actually just add a point control. This is the effect that you need to edit. You connect it to the source text, and then you just place in essentially this command. Okay, let's just say command into, or expression, whatever it's called, this expression into the After Effects expression window. And if not, if I can just also make a tutorial on it later down the line. So if you want to actually find the exact essentially tutorial that I use to essentially make this animation that the numbers go up here from whatever 160k to 200 whatever k, then just type in rising number After Effects and then just look for the one that has over 1 million, because that's just kind of like makes more sense. There's also two different type of animations that you can do, but one brings you further than the other one. But yeah, this is essentially just a picture that I took from somewhere. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe I took it from Motion Array, could be. And then I just placed these two on top of it, these two texts, and the same number just goes up. It initiates that you are successful essentially and you trade stocks and you make a lot of money. This is why we just wanted to have this in. Add some deep glow on it. This is also colored in green, and it's also the thin bold text as we used before. Same text applies to every single animation in this video. We always used the thin bold for the animations here, so, or essentially for the channel videos. And consistency is key, so I suggest you to just pick one font, and if there's maybe a secondary font that you really want to use, that something stands out and you want to actually highlight that with an arrow and just have like the secondary font, highlight the text, whatever it is, then go ahead. But I would really just suggest to you to just pick one font and just stick with that, and something that looks premium, okay? And also high quality. Something like Apple font, Henken Grotesque, or what is Inter is also a really good font that I suggest to use or recommend to use. Okay, so essentially you had these two texts going up. We had the window, the TradingView window with the stock chart. Oh yeah, we didn't break down this part here. So essentially just had a grid, made it a composition essentially. And then what we did is we track matted it to essentially this window at the bottom. So we wanted to have some grid on the window, so it kind of like, I think it doesn't look good without the grid. So I just wanted to add some grid to it. It looks a little bit better in my opinion. So yeah, so we just kept it like this. And yeah, so this is essentially it. We had some scale up animations, of course. So we had the window essentially pop up like this, like a real window when you see like this, it pops up. So like here on MacBook, it just pops out of the out of the folder when I open it up. So yeah, this is kind of like that we did as well here as well. Maybe we could have added some opacity as well, but I think it looked good and it was pretty fast, so we didn't need it to add opacity. So yeah, this is essentially the whole animation. It is not hard to do in my opinion. So this is something that you could do maybe in 20 minutes, animate it in 20 minutes. The most, I think, difficult part could be to find or to create the right AI image. I think I created this with ChatGPT. I'm not sure if that's right. Maybe I created it with something else, but I'm 90% sure it's ChatGPT. So ChatGPT gave me this image, and I was like, okay, well, this is good enough. I cut it out in Photoshop like everything else, and I just replaced it with AI as well. Like if you open up this file here, if we go to the background, you will see I had a lot of work with generative fill, and I removed a lot of stuff. So this is what it looked before. This was the image that I got minus the guy who should be on the right side here, and I just essentially removed everything bit by bit. Okay, I just edited it with generative fill, the guy as well. If we open this up, it's usually it was this was the picture. It wasn't a full black screen. I just noticed. We cut out the guy, and then we just replaced it in Photoshop with the generative AI fill feature. Okay, so yeah, and so yeah, this is the desk, and the screen we already showed that. So essentially just removed, like cut it out in Photoshop. This was kind of tedious work if the AI is a little bit slow on there, but then here it was also just to figure out what the kind of like the angle is, whatever, and you just adjust it. I don't think that takes like a lot of time up. Like 3D work is like maybe like 2 minutes of work to adjust everything to be in the right position, to be in the right angle as well, and add some keyframes to it super fast actually. And I think it's just up to your creativity on how fast you can actually create these. Yeah, one thing I would do better about this project is definitely the aesthetics and the effects that I placed on top of it. I just removed those. Too much noise. Essentially, I don't like how it looks with the colors. I would definitely change the colors like this, or maybe just exposure a bit more down so it's a little bit more focused. Same thing for the guy, except for the exposure. Or maybe the exposure is also good, but what I would just remove a lot of his saturation as well, just because I don't like the colors at all. Like these colors doesn't look very premium to me. So yeah, that's what I would do. And other than that, I think the animation is really unique in some sort of way. Now, there was like also a better version that I did for a VSL, so where I had a MacBook window and all that stuff, but I will break that down later in this module. So stay tuned for that. It's the buildable VSL. Stay tuned for that. There's like a really cool animations, really high quality animations. And one thing I will also do is like use high quality stuff here, because Apple on their website, I can just show you, it's Apple Design Resources. So if you go here, you can find for free all the templates that Apple essentially provides you for free. So if you go here, you want to have an iPad or a phone template, or even this computer like MacBook template, then you just open up in Figma here, and then it opens up essentially the Figma file that Apple uploaded, like everything official and all that stuff. And then you can just go ahead, examples, you see there is like buttons and all that stuff, like these things, like these submenus and all that stuff. It's like buttons that you can use, desktop templates, and you can just use this whole doc here, which I did for one of the project, for the buildable VSL project. I did that. I just went ahead and went in. You can just blend out the doc, the menu bar, which is on top here. You can just export them individually and just adjust them individually. So this means you just click here, and where my face cam here is on the top, on the right bottom, you can just go ahead 4x PNG and just export it, or even like the PDF file, you can just export it, and it's like even better quality, I think. So yeah, just have to try it out for yourself. I don't remember anymore, but this is where you get essentially the very high quality files for your videos. If you need to blend in some Apple stuff, really good stuff here, like really good design finds, whatever. so I'm not sure about the license, whatever. I'm not really professional, whatever. I didn't read through it, so read through it to make sure everything is cool for you as well. But I think it should be. Don't trust me with this one. For licensing, whatever, please look up for yourself, okay? And this is just one file, one Figma file. There is a lot more. So for example, I used the phone already. I used the iPad. I used also the MacBook as well. So I can definitely recommend it. There's even the Apple Watch. So yeah, let's just see these ones. For example, here there's this iPad. You can just remove like this background and all that stuff, and then you just have the iPad outside. And what you can do is just export this as a PNG file, 4x quality PNG file. Just export it, bam. Whatever you need, it's essentially just boom, boom. Just remove this. Home screen widgets. Oh yeah, it's still loading, but you get the point. You can just find everything you need essentially for your project if it's Apple related on the Apple Design website. I won't link it below. You just saw the URL. It is Apple Design Resources, Apple Developer. Just type in Apple Design. But yeah, we wasted enough time here. Let's move on to the next animation, let's move on to essentially the B-roll.
Stock market. This is because in the past several years, we've gone through some of the craziest moments in human history, including a global pandemic, record-breaking inflation, and the most debt this country has ever seen from the amount of money that was printed in the past few years.
So crazy things that went on in the economy. We had like this thing is like the craziest thing, like this dude with this dude just shaking hands. It's insane. And then we had, of course, again, showing Trump, and then we had showing Biden, some funny clip, and then what I would do here is remove the logo, essentially. That would be pretty better, it would just look better, essentially, because this is distracting. And then we had pandemic, which is had essentially people in this clothing and just putting these dude. I just found B-roll on that. Essentially, this is called Pandemic Full Documentary, Wildest Political Moments, President Donald Trump's Most Iconic Moments. And then President Trump meets Chairman Kim. And then we had essentially just showing homeless rates or whatever debt that essentially debt is showing. Debt means you could go homeless. If you have too much debt, you can pay back. They take away your house, whatever. They take everything you have, and then you just get homeless. Essentially, you end up on the streets. And then here I would also recommend to remove logos, whatever you have B-roll, just to make it better. So learn from my mistakes. It just looks better if you remove these logos and these watermarks, essentially with some masking. You just duplicate the clip, and then you just take the opacity, cut out the part here, and just place it on top of it. I'm sure you will find a way to remove these. And yeah, then we have
money that was printed in the past few years.
Money printed. It would just show money printed essentially here as well. How America makes its money, 60 minutes. So it's also just a B-roll from YouTube. And then we had this change here. We just remove the mute.
The past few years. But here's the thing. Out of chaos comes opportunity. And the aftermath of this.
Out of chaos, it comes opportunity. So it was like, how can I show this? Chaos. So we had some overlay that is showing kind of like this chaos feeling. This is 04. Let's just break it down. So we had essentially, it's pretty easy to do, I think, what I did here. We had essentially a white background, added some gradient ramp on it, vignette on it, and then we also added some, I'm not sure why it's double. Oh yeah, and then we had a grid and a CC lens, and then we had this effect essentially that we just placed on the white background. So this is essentially just initiating, like not initiating, but showing chaos. It is showing you that something is like not right. Okay, this is what initiates. This overlay should just help to show this word chaos and just give the same vibe as this word presents in our feelings. Okay, it's not like that deep. I just want to have something that is looking a little bit chaotic. Okay, something that presents chaos just shown on this white screen, and I think it fitted pretty good. And then we had this box here, this rectangle that has the word chaos on it. Now I don't like caps, but here we had caps, and here we had opportunity also written out in caps. So we mentioned, I think, chaos in the video.
Here's the thing. Out of chaos comes opportunity.
Yeah, out of chaos comes opportunity. So this is kind of like a stock market, essentially philosophy. So this is I just wanted to show chaos, and we just switch to opportunity. So this was kind of like one of the concepts that I had in mind is just having this box, and then we just have this box that is turning around and it's just showing opportunity. From chaos on the one side, turning to opportunity. From chaos comes opportunity. It fits pretty good because this is how also with stock goes. When you invest when it's like chaos, there is a big opportunity on that because it can go up essentially. If yeah, this is kind of like the philosophy behind this edit as well. Yeah, it is nothing special. We had this 3D like this box here, and we had also some grid added to it as well. So these are the grids, and we just added and masked them to it as well. And essentially everything is parented to this rectangle. This is a white rectangle, but it is actually a gradient ramp on it. So it's a little bit darker here, it's a little bit brighter here, like grayish. Has some deep glow on it as well. So I added a lot of deep glow at that time. And then we have the word chaos. It's also parented, and it's also 3D'd. And then we have another adjustment layer that doesn't do anything, and then some effects as well. And then we just essentially switch. And then you see there is also this little after tilt. I didn't add this manually. It was actually an expression that I added to this box. So let's just pull it up. So if we pull it up, if we go to rotation, which we used for the 3D, we rotated it. You see here, we added this expression on it. So if you look up on Google expressions list and all that stuff for After Effects, or look up this website or essentially this this URL, you can find a lot of codes and expressions. Okay, for example, a lot of ones that I use is this wiggle one, not this this hard. Okay, this is actually just I just use it on 1 and 20 maybe, or 1 or 5. This is really jittery. But essentially, I just like to have some stuff actually have some motion on it, some wiggle on it. So I just add a wiggle expression. And one expression I really like to use as well is inertial bounce expression. So what this does is, boom. I think it's the same one that I used here on the timeline as well. But what it does just kind of like gives that bouncy feeling its own. Because without the bouncy feeling, it would have just been like, okay, we rotate from up to down, and that's it. But here we have this same kind of like bouncy back and forth effect, okay? And this is what this expression gives us. But we have to hold down Alt or whatever key that is. We have to click on the clock. Then this expression window opens up, and then we just place it in here, okay? This we just adjusted it here as well, like these three, just codes. We adjust this, and then it looks really good. So this is what I did, and then I switched from white to essentially to black, okay? And we had some motion in the background. The background probably had some CC lens or some scale on it. And then in the background, what we also did have is some of this overlay as well. It's really subtle, but we have a little bit of overlay on there. Kind of like, I think you can see it on the upper stairs here. I think it's too dark at the bottom here, so you can't see it. I think you could have just removed it, and it would have looked still pretty good. But yeah, it looks also really good with that turned on. And then we also have this kind of like stock footage of a stock chart, and that we just placed essentially on top of the background, and we changed it to pin light, okay? Or otherwise it would have just looked like this, okay? We just changed it to pin light, and just to have some stock chart, as essentially this shows opportunity with stock market, with the stock chart. Everyone knows these candles, whatever. And yeah, this is essentially the animation. I have also added some more, of course, more stuff, but I think without the effects also it looks really good. But yeah, it's a really small but and fast animation as well. You don't see it a lot on the screen. It is really just to showcase the point that we were making, from chaos to opportunity. And then we have a little bit of time talking here, and then we have these two AI animations, which we're going to break down now. Which is actually the first one I animated, I think, on this video. So I had this AI animation. It threw me out, I think, this one. So this was essentially the starting point that ChatGPT gave to me. As I said, I'm 9% sure I used ChatGPT for it. But if you want to really create better animations, I can definitely recommend FreePic. You can even create like characters now, custom characters that can be saved. Essentially, you can just go ahead and use the character that the talking head video you're editing for. Like you have a channel guy that records the videos, he's on camera. You can just actually just take some screenshot of that and then plays it into the creator, and then you can just actually have the guy recreated in the AI. It looks like kind of like real. I actually created a thumbnail with that as well. So it is really insane how FreePick AI is actually working right now. So I can definitely recommend the FreePick AI. Besides that, it has crazy functions, okay? And there's like everything inside that tool. Yeah, it's like what, $15 per month, so I can definitely recommend it. A lot of graphics also. I think I have an affiliate link. I'm not sure if I'm gonna link it, but essentially just really, really great tool. All right. So with that being said, I essentially masked out all this stuff here. Not masked out, but selected all the stuff around the window here, and I just let AI in Photoshop create this image. I was like, hey, create teenager room, whatever, and this is what it's created. So there's this dude sitting here, there's this laptop also, really cool light, this is also really cool light, everything is like chips and all that stuff, and then we have essentially showcasing broke, okay? We want to have something broke, and I really want to have essentially a window that we fly in a window. So I essentially also created a window on top of it, and this is it. This is, or I think I found this picture maybe, or I've created it with the AI. I can't tell you. Maybe it's AI. Oh yeah, it was AI. It was a different picture, and I just cut out the window. Yeah, because it just worked better. And I just adjusted the colors here to blue, as well as here. Okay, so yeah, this is essentially the picture that we created in Photoshop. We had the room that we adjusted. We removed the window, and we created a room. Then we had another picture with the window. We cut the window, like glasses, whatever, and then we adjusted the colors and then placed on top of it. And then we again save as a PSD file. So we saved the PSD file and just actually drag and dropped it into After Effects, okay? And this is essentially it. We have the room here, we have the window here as in Photoshop, so we can adjust every single thing. And these things, which we're going to break down in a second, but first we break down this part of the animation. So we zoom in on the window. This is one thing I had in my mind. It's like from broke to, like what is broke? Some people who sit at home, all over, like their home is all over the place. They can't focus. They have like these gaming PCs, whatever, and they have like these phones and just staring at it even into the night, into the middle of the night. Again, sometimes I do it. Maybe that's why, yeah, I don't have a Ferrari yet. So, just kidding. But yeah, so this is kind of like what we say as broke, okay? And this is kind of like the perfect picture is like cold. We have from outside we see this is like broke. We don't want to associate with that, and then we go from broke to something like colorful, wealthy, okay? And now again, let me just turn off these effects here. I think these like a lot of effects, okay? So we have this here, broke, essentially kind of like switching from left to right, or like filling this up, and then essentially I think it's this animation, right? Yeah. So we have a dark gray shape at the bottom here. I think it's a stroke. It's just a stroke that is very, very thick, okay? And then we have a white layer on top of it, which we actually blend out. This is just a mask. And then we have the red water that is masked to this white layer here below. And this red water is essentially just showcasing your broke. This is essentially your bank account maybe, okay? And then there is like a white outline on top of it, like a white stroke. And we have broke written in caps. I don't like caps. And we actually have like a different font here as well. So I was wrong. Sometimes, maybe because we had a different project that required essentially having a different font. But yeah, other than that, I just have D in bold everywhere where it's most visible. But yeah, here as well. But yeah, I was wrong. So we had actually a different font as well. I don't recommend it. I would stick to one font, and if we would switch back to D in bold, it would actually look the same essentially, or maybe even better. Okay, so we have broke, and then we just cut to wealthy, and then we have let's see which keyframe it is. It's this one. So we have the path essentially. It's the trim path. We added there is this stroke essentially, this this red water that is floating around. This red water is masked to the white layer below that is not visible, and it's floating around. It has essentially the wave warp. This is why it's like this floaty, watery effect. And then we have a fill added on top of it, which doesn't make too much sense because we could have just changed the stroke color here down here. The stroke color, boom, and it's the same thing as I would have added a fill to it. So it doesn't make too much sense. I just didn't know at that time that it is possible. I didn't check it out, or I just missed it somehow. But yeah, I added a fill to it, and I just changed from red to green, okay? And then we had essentially the trim path go from 0. Oh no, we didn't have a trim path. Pardon me. It is essentially just the path, okay? Whatever that means. So we had a path essentially just go from left to right. So from this point, we had go and just stretch it out until it fills it up, okay? And then we just had essentially wealthy showing, and then from broke to wealthy. What I would do here better is just essentially make it smaller. The text is like way too big. Make this but smaller and remove the caps, okay? That's what I would do better if I would do it again. And yeah, essentially I would do a lot more better, but these are just small adjustings that just make it look better, okay? But yeah, this is essentially this first part here, the broke. So we have some keyframing. So yeah, we have some essentially some movement in it, and then we just popped it off. I think the pop-up was a little bit too harsh, so the positioning keyframes were a bit too harsh, so it popped up. But other than that, it's okay. And then we essentially just switched, okay? We just jump cut it to the next animation, which is this dude and this wealth kind of like symbol that you have a big house, beautiful garden, like, you know, those beautiful places in France, those beautiful chateaus or whatever they're called, and with these beautiful big gardens. And this is essentially what we want to try to showcase here. We also have the image AI generated generational wealth rabbit mansion image here. So yeah, this is what essentially the image looked like. Okay, we cut out the character, so without the character, and with the character, this is what it looked like. This is what ChatGPT gave to me. It was already really good, vibrant. It looks really good. We removed the character with AI and essentially just you know, made a smart object. Then I cut out the flowers, and then essentially we had the guy and the flowers essentially that we could do. So if we have some motion, so if we look here, we can essentially just adjust the flower positions and all that stuff. So essentially make kind of like more of like a 3D effect. The flowers are in the foreground, so we can just blur them out a bit more, creating also a little bit more depth effect on this this motion graphics essentially. And we can also just position keyframe this dude, and yeah, also like a little bit of 3D as well. And we also added some overlay. I just saw it. So there is some overlay of whatever images, false colored flower overlay. Okay, this is some flowers. It has some fast box blur, and also a little bit saturation adjustments, like the color adjustments. Okay, so we had this dude. It is not the most smoothest animation I ever did, but it is something that actually just looked a little vibrant, looked really good in my opinion, in terms of just wow effect. Okay, so we had the mention also blurred out. This is the background. We had it blurred out, and then we had a keyframe to it, so the blur goes away as we zoom out. So we can just focus on this character. So we have wealthy with a suit. This dude is complete opposite to this dude who on the couch, and then boom, we have essentially this villa or chateau revealing, and we have this these flowers essentially in the foreground as well, which are also just moving. Let's see how they are moving. So you can essentially just also get them left to right as well if you want to have some more movement into it, or like these shakes, just so wiggle in it, whatever it is. So this is why it was cool to cut these out, because they're in the foreground and it can create some depth effect as well. So we can just blur them out, whatever, and it creates even more depth, okay? So this is why I cut them out in Photoshop as well. So yeah, we had also some gradient ramp, which is just actually showing the sun. This is a yellow to black, and we had this on lighten, okay? So if we go to normal, it's barely visible because the opacity is on 11%, but you can see it's yeah, like this. Other than that, I would maybe just do it full yellow. If I was doing this today, I would just do a full yellow solid color, and then I would just mask it out, set it to lighten, and then I would just mask it out with some big feathering, and I just turn down the opacity. That's how I would do it today if I were to do it again. Maybe the gradient ramp is not the best solution here. It was just essentially the first solution that came to my mind when I was editing this video. So again, there's like a lot of bad choices made in this video, which I kind of like regret after all, but it's not an issue because the big picture is not that you make every single project that you do perfect. The big picture is that every single project that you make is better than the last one, okay? It doesn't mean that you have more animations in it. It doesn't mean that. It is actually just that it's better than the last one. It has better quality. It has maybe smoother animations. It has some whatever better aspect of a good, actually foundational, like good fundamental video. It has better aspects of this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be good enough, and then the next one should be better than the last project. That is essentially what you want to achieve as an editor. Don't try to be perfect, whatever. Like, I know there are people out there who will try to be perfect. I think I was one of them, so this is why I didn't, start YouTube before. But when I finally started not caring about like my background and all that stuff, and not waiting for the perfect moment to start YouTube and all that stuff, then yeah, that's where I actually got more success. So yeah, don't want to go too much into this. We essentially just had these gradient ramps, so the opacity went up a little bit at the end, so to give it also more motion. And yeah, maybe next time I would just make it a little bit slower. And then this window here, the wealthy window, was essentially just parented to the guy. Okay, wanted to track it to the guy because we wanted to have it down here so we can look at the villa and all that stuff, but it's still to be as important as essentially to be in the video. So it's a really good concept. We just have like some aesthetics that needed to be improved for the next essentially video. If I would have to redone this and the same animation, I would just done differently with the aesthetics, but really good solutions, really creative. So yeah, I'm kind of like giving myself some round of applause here, but yeah, I think it looks good. And next one, we didn't actually watch, we just actually watched up until here, right? If I'm not mistaken. So let's watch further.
Of a new era, and it's almost as if we've been handed a golden ticket right at the palm of our hands in being able to single-handedly change our lives financially forever. Now, how do I know this, and where does my deeply rooted, strong conviction come from? Well, it comes from experience. Before I made millions of dollars from my businesses, my investments, including stocks, crypto, and more, I started out in the shoes of many of you watching this video here. Now look, I grew up in a Korean immigrant family with not much to our name, so I can assure you that I didn't have this trust fund that allowed me to have this head start and being able to have multiple millions of dollars. More specifically, when it came to investing, I first started this journey about 10 years ago while attending community college without any sure idea of what I even wanted to do with my life. At that time, I was helping my dad at work, putting down hardwood floors and working as a health technician with kids who had autism as my part-time job. Now back then,
so I just really want to break down the first couple minutes because these are the most important in the video. Don't worry, I'm just gonna watch all the video through. No worries. And I'm not gonna do that because it's just kind of like a waste of time. You can watch the video as well and break it down for yourself, like based on the B-roll, based on the tips I give here in this specific things that I break down, because the same principles apply to the most of the timeline here. So next is we're going to break down this animation. So let's mute this out. So this one is also an animation. This is our 5. Let's find it. It's here. So this one is also an AI animation. It was essentially hands that we cut out, and then we have also the money. This is financial freedom. I think I edited this in Photoshop. So essentially just added this on top of this money, whatever. Oh yeah, here was a reference picture essentially that I added to ChatGPT and said, hey, can you recreate something like this? And this is how it came up with this, which is pretty cool. You can just add this to ChatGPT and just have some reference photos from that if you have like any ideas. And this was the window essentially. Okay, cool. I just find all of these things, and this is the YouTube UI. Yeah, it just had like a lot of files in this folder, so I don't look through all of them. And this was essentially the Safari window probably that I used. All right, but nevertheless, we have essentially the money. we have the background here. So this is essentially the picture that AI give us, a picture of a street, and we have the concept was that you get handed the golden ticket to financial freedom or to be rich, whatever it is. And then what I was like, okay, well, he handed the golden ticket. So it's kind of like, I think there was maybe an episode in SpongeBob that had something that flies in SpongeBob's hands, and he's like, wow, like whatever it is. So the same thing here. We have something, you're just standing in the middle of the street, and there's just there's a golden ticket flying to you, okay? This is essentially the concept behind it. I know there could have been made it much, much more better, animated, a lot more creative, whatever. I know, but at that time, this is the best solution I had. So I was like, well, let's just do it. And then what I did here is I just keyframed the hands, and I just position keyframe them up so they also both arrive at the same time at the top to catch the financial freedom money ticket. And then we had the background, and we had a slight zoom out of essentially from the sky. I think the golden ticket could have been arriving a little bit faster, so there is nothing like people that could be confused, like what is this low resolution image? I mean, it's not that low resolution. It's kind of like a painted image, but yeah. So this is essentially everything is made by AI, except for the hands and the money. So first frame is essentially zoomed in, and we zoom out and down. So and then the hands arrive, giving you that feeling that you were already like looking for that, and it's like boom, it's in front of you. Okay, and then essentially we have the money, which is this part, and I just added some wave warp to it, kind of like this when it's like flying. It's like woo woo effect. I know it sounds like a little bit weird. And then we had some 3D, giving it that feeling that it is tilted a little bit. But yeah, then we had some drop shadow to it as well, so it sticks out in the hands. And then we had also this shiny glow. So this is like also like a lot of like a little bit cool as well, I think. So essentially, how you can create this glow, this shiny glow that goes from left to right, is pretty easy. You have a white fill rectangle or whatever it is. You mask out essentially this little part here, or whatever part you want to have as a shine, or you can also just create a rectangle that is as exactly that. Okay. And then what you do is you track matte that, you mask it or track matte it to the object that you want to shine, and then you just actually keyframe it, go from left to right, and you just also parent it if you want to. In this case, we didn't need to parent because it was just still. One thing you could also do is have a solid white layer. You don't have to create a rectangle, and then just mask out that solid white layer, and then have some feather on it, and then have maybe like an overlay mode or whatever, or add mode added on that solid white layer, and just go from left to right and adjust the opacity as you go. And yeah, so this is what I would essentially just do to get this effect. Okay, and here I turn on this Luma matte selected. Okay, this is turned on here for this one because at that time I just did it like this. But just make sure it goes from complete left to complete right, and maybe also parent it just to make 100% sure that it doesn't interfere here, and there's like this little thing. So just pay attention to that everything is looking good on the timeline. All right, so with that being said, let's go back. So yeah, this is essentially it. There's not much to it. This is essentially just landing on the hands, and yeah, this is as easy as it gets, okay? The next part here, we have some B-roll, where he talked about how much money he made. So we showed essentially some items. We had the Rolex. We zoomed in a little bit on here. It's like a 4K file. So from 50%, we zoomed in 30%-ish. No, we zoomed in 60% then, right? Like, yeah. But we zoomed in on the Rolex a little bit. We've a little bit made it a bit more centered. Then we had the Ford, and then the Lambo, and then we had also him on a boat, okay? This is really cool clips that we just choose. If I would do it again, I would just do some decoloring would do a little bit better. And then we had these animations, which I don't want to go too much into. These are like pretty private, but I guess it's just too many people saw it, so we just show it here as well. And pardon for this part, I just can't show this image, this big image here, because when I found this file, I just had some issue. But yeah, what we did here with these three images, popped them up like these, position, and it had some bounce effect on it as well, if you can see it, some little bounce effect. Okay, and same for the first one. Okay, and on these we had some drop shadows, and we had like a dark background with some big grids and the barely visible grids. So essentially I got the feedback that my grids or my background is way too visible, like the lines and all that stuff. So for these projects, I already kept the background less visible. I think here the noise looks good. But other than that, it's just like there's a lot of noise here. This is what the first picture should look like, some drop shadow on it. Maybe I would add also some more motion as well. And yeah, maybe it has some camera movement as well into it. So camera 3D if I would do it again. But yeah, this is essentially the animation's pretty easy. I would maybe also do the edges a little bit better. So mask them to a rectangle that has these rounding edges, a little bit rounder edges. And then we had essentially some B-roll from him earlier. He talked about his journey, I guess, or whatever. And he talked here, I didn't mention this in the last video. He talked about essentially that he did like hardwood floors, which is essentially this clip, which is found on YouTube. Again, same principle apply as in the last video. And then here he talked about that he worked with kids with autism. I didn't want to blend it in because first I didn't want to show like kids with autism. Second, we didn't have clips with him like with this particular clip, and I also didn't felt like really comfortable with just blending in like kids like that. So I was like, well, if I don't want to find any B-roll for that, I think it's already enough B-roll animations back to back to back as well. So we just keep it hardwood floors, and then we switch to cam essentially when he finished the sentence, and we go to the next start. So then we have some more B-roll, essentially GameStop. I don't want to break down every single B-roll we have. Let's just listen to it.
Stocks based on how much I like the company in real life. If I was walking past the TV and I saw some
yeah, so he talks TV, so I blend in some old stock things, whatever, some stock B-roll essentially. It's like him before when he was just buying all the stocks.
If I saw some stocks blowing up and getting 100% runs in a
GameStop blow up, and everyone knows that it is a short squeeze. Everyone literally on this planet, almost like everyone knows like or heard about it, okay? And then he said,
even just going out and I like the quality of those Lululemon pants, I'd be like, all right, it's time for me to pick up some of that stock. Through that method.
So yeah, we had some B-roll on the pants as well. And then we had this text animation, essentially the first text animation that is purely just, which is just, it was a gamble. Again, it's a different font, which is super weird to me because usually we don't do that. So essentially, I think within that 2-month period, we changed the main font from Deed and Bold to Lex and Deca. And Lex and Deca was my suggestion to use because Lex and Deca is essentially the most easy to read font essentially on this on the internet, so that you can find. So if you have like Lex and Deca on your thumbnail, whatever, it's easier to read, whatever. So this is one thing I read. So people with reading problems can read it easier. So thus, it's like the best font to read. And yeah, so I guess in the beginning of this video, I said that usually we stay consistent and all that stuff. So that's my mistake here. I should stay consistent moving forward as well with the fonts. And I'm actually consistent now. So with this tight schedules and tight deadlines, we had some things that weren't consistent enough, like these fonts, whatever. It's really a small and very subtle kind of thing, but overall, when you like, it's overall just adds to branding to the channel, and it only takes away if you're not consistent. Okay, it only can hurt if it's not consistent. Like, it's not always. Sometimes it's not like you eat one cookie and you get diabetes or whatever. It's not the same. Like, you just have like on one animation the wrong font, and it's like going to hurt the whole video. It's not the same thing. Okay, it's just really just for the looks, for aesthetics, for the premium look, and also for the professionalism that you have more consistent going on in your animations and also in your B-roll and all that stuff. So because if you notice, we have at least always 3 B-rolls here. Like, there is not many, like only one B-roll. Like, he only talked about the Lululemon pants here. Like, for example, here we only have 1 B-roll. This is where he talked about the pants, but this is like some very specific thing. So we actually just wanted to show these pants that he was talking about. I like this quality, and we just show that. Okay, we can also blend like 3 different clips here, but it was like too short to do that, and we don't want to have like all these jump cuts back to back to back because we're already 1 minute 44 in a video, and it's kind of like distracting and annoying if you can't see what's going on, especially with these pants. Okay, so but essentially we have like a lot of B-roll back to back, at least 3 that we blend in. Okay, so this is also consistency. We have at least 3 B-roll back to back, blending in without switching back to the camera, and because otherwise it's just kind of like distracting if you just blend in one thing if it doesn't serve the purpose. Yeah, this is essentially the principle behind it. I hope it makes sense. But yeah, with that being said, we have some drop shadows on the text, which is insane to me. I wouldn't do this today. I don't think it adds too much. I would just either just do this and also just this here as well. I don't think it adds too much to have too big of a glow and too big of a drop shadow essentially added to the text. And I'll just make the text as well, or a bit bigger, like this. So this is what I would do today. And also don't get the wave warp in the grid in the background. So a couple of things I just tried out, I guess. So there is like a little bit of tried out stuff. But yeah, so essentially just text with some trim path, stroke, and also some deep glow on it that underlines gamble and highlights the point gamble as well. And then we have also some effects on it, and then just a really subtle background with, I think these grids look a little bit too much, and it's also distracting because it has some these waves in it. But yeah, essentially it's yeah, what it was back then, okay? And I just don't recommend it. And then we had some more whatever stocks or being successful B-roll. And also notice how, let me just play this. It
wasn't until I went from gambling as a beginner to strategic investing through proper education where I was able to make money consistently from the stock market and have my money truly work for me.
Can you see how smooth it is? Like we went from this clip to going from a left to right motion. So we didn't add the motion, it was just recorded this way. Left to right motion, and then it continues from left to right motion. This is why it was so smooth when the switch happened. I definitely recommend don't have like contradicting motion. This is also important for the B-roll. Don't have too much contradicting motion, especially if you go from left to right. You don't want to have the next clip go from right to left. And this here is also contradicting, but it still fits as well. So it was pretty good. And yeah, I know you don't have always all these clips, that you can choose from. But if you have, I just recommend to have the same motion that continues, okay, throughout the B-rolls, because that just creates such a smoothness. It just doesn't create this distraction in your brain. And I talk a lot about distraction and all these things, but it's kind of like a little subtle, or I would say it's like kind of like deep in us, like subconsciously, that we just notice these things. And then we have a screenshot that we essentially just zoom in on, position scale. We have some vignette added on top of it, and then we also have the white background, okay? It's nothing special. We just had, he just mentioned this, I guess, in the video. So I just zoomed in on it. Yeah, via Premiere Pro. And then we had this animation that we want to break down. Let's see it first.
Where I saw my stock portfolio close.
Let's actually play all the sounds.
Run, where I saw my stock portfolio closing in on over $500,000 across all my accounts. And even at that.
So essentially this animation is pretty easy to do. What you do here is essentially you have a PSD file of a laptop. So I guess if I remove this, you will have this. So I guess you can just find a mock-up of a laptop. You essentially cut out the stock footage that you want to displace on the laptop, and you just place on top of it. But if you see there's it's masked out, the stock footage. And then we just have the text with the rising number effect, essentially just rising up. Just $500,000 showing on the account. And in the background, we have essentially also some stock video of trading charts, whatever. And we just have like some blur on it. Do we have some blur on it? We don't have blur on it, but I added the effect before, so I tested it out, I guess. It doesn't look that good. Or maybe it does. But I liked this screen effect, this dotted effect probably. And then we added some, we dehued the saturation, and we added some keyframing to that as well. So it is colorful here, but it is black and white here. So we just focus more on what is here on the screen, because he says, and then I had whatever he said before that, and then $500,000 closed on the trading account. $500,000 is in the focus essentially. Here I would also blur out the background maybe and just zoom in a bit more and make the text a bit smaller. So zoom in on the laptop, make the text smaller, and also blur out the background a bit more. And then also vignettes added to the background as well, or the clip itself, and then some effects. This is Lex and Eka, and then it's some deep glow essentially added to the text as well, which is a bit too much in my. So this is already good enough. So let's check out the last couple of
Oh my.
the intro. So we are already 2 minutes and 30 seconds in. We covered most of the part of the intro. After that, let's see what we cover. Probably mostly just the B-roll and essentially just the animations.
Counts. And even at that point, when I'd never seen that kind of money before, I even got greedy. From someone who started with nothing, who had a lot, to seeing it drop even more, I've learned.
I like how we switched the B cam here from someone who ding 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 ding.
I've learned so many key lessons.
And then here comes essentially the main part. Here comes the part where he wants to make his point clear.
That I'm going to share with you all.
So essentially the B cam is like, I learned this, and then so today all the things I learned I will share with you all. So this essentially we just cut to the main cam. It's also really good if you have just one cam just to zoom in here, because just to make the point clear.
In this video here. So the importance in you watching this video is
I think this is more important to zoom in.
Tremendous, and that is at least if you really want to make money investing into the stock market. So in this video, I'll go over why now is the most.
So yeah, essentially what we have here, without breaking down too much of the sound, is we have the first chapter or the intro stopping, and we go into the presentation. So we have the music here.
We want to make money investing into the.
Oh, I love this. So we have the music here fading out, essentially. Let me just mute the talking. We have the music fading out on the last couple of sentences, on the last couple of seconds of the sentence. And then we have the other music starting, which we actually switch music when we start a new chapter. So it's kind of like giving the viewer something, okay, something new is happening, so you can refocus, we re-engage the viewer by switching the music, at least with every single chapter. So yeah, and then we also have again the music with low pass playing, and then here it's music that is essentially just some hype music.
Watching this video is tremendous, and that is at least if you really want to make money investing into the stock market. So in this video, I'll go over why now.
If you really want to make money investing in the stock market, it's essentially without music. So it's essentially initiating that he finishes a sentence, and then we actually switch into the presentation, something new is happening, and it's like new music starts, and people are like, okay, well, let's go. I'm in the video. And they're like watching it. Okay, you know, it's like re-engaging the viewer. And then here, what I would do better is just essentially just flipping the camera. There's this effect called, essentially just type in flip, and there's like vertical, horizontal flip, and just flip the camera. Whenever it is, you can just flip that he's talking towards essentially the screen. I did on the last breakdown, I saw it that my camera was here, and I was talking essentially outside. No, pardon me. I was here, and my camera was flipped to the outside. So it's pretty funny, because I should be actually here and then talking to the inside, but then I'm blocking all the layers. So that's why I placed myself here temporarily, because I didn't pay attention to that before I started recording. But now I fixed that essentially, and now I can have my cam essentially facing inwards. And of course I wouldn't flip all the time, like back and forth and all that stuff, but just make sure if you can just flip the camera to inwards.
Is how it.
And essentially what we have here is essentially just we have the face cam, and then what we have as well is the presentation. Okay, I got all the presentation files, so we don't have a screen recording per se here. I think he just read it off the teleprompter, and then we have essentially just the presentations. Okay, did I blend in every single one? I think like here, for example, is not a presentation, but oh yeah, it's the video is not whole presentation, but there is presentation elements like here, for example. Give me just let's just get you through the video. So
some of these methods include the Nancy Pelosi tracker or copy trading some CEOs and executives. Now this is going to be.
So yeah, here the watermark actually made sense. So just because he talked about CEOs. In the first couple minutes, we switch more between the camera and the screen recording if there's nothing more going on the presentation that he's reading off of. He's just giving personal opinion to it. He is elaborating on the presentation. Then we switch back to the A and B cam, and we always switch back to the A cam first, and then we switch to B cam. We never actually switch to the B cam only, except when the A cam is blurred or there is not the autofocus is not hitting. Then we switch to the B cam, of course, but normally we just switch back to the A cam first from our screen recording, from an animation, whatever happened before, like B-roll, whatever it is. We switch to A cam, and then we switch to B cam, and then we switch back to A cam if we want to, or switch to screen recording. Whatever happens after that is whatever, but we always switch back to A cam. Okay, because it's just a bit distracting if we switch back from animation to the B cam, okay? Man, I love this dog. So cute.
Recommend that you guys have a place to take notes. Use a notebook, get your phone out so that you can also follow along.
Oh yeah, I would have also blended in some phone note-taking stuff as well. Like that's what I would have added here
Today. All right, so before we kick this video off.
Oh yeah. So then we have another chapter.
All right, so before we kick this video off, let's go over why you should consider investing into the stock market today. To start, the S&P 500, which also stands for Standard & Poor's, is a stock market index that measures the performance of 500 of the largest companies listed on stock exchanges here in the US. Now, the S&P is one of the most...
All right, so let's break down this one first. It is pretty simple, but let's still just go over it because that's the next animation. So this is kind of like a new placing that I tried out here with this text. Essentially, we wanted to have a big text on screen, and what I wanted to have is, why should you invest in the stock market? We could have added the why here on the start here, but I was like, why not just edit on top of it, like smaller? Like this is here is like 97 pixel large, and this is like 146. So we're like, why not just edit on top like why, and should you invest in the stock market? So it's easier to read essentially. So this is kind of like some things that I was experimenting at that point, just from feedback and all that stuff. But yeah, essentially just a blue background with some gradient, some blue dark gradient, and then some drop shadow added to the text, and then also some deep glow as well on the text. Too much deep glow, too much drop shadow, you know. Other than that, it looks pretty good. All right, so the next one is essentially the S&P 500, and then we just move up the text with position keyframes, and we have essentially the whatever the S&P stands for, essentially just showing below. Okay, could have done this with a little bit thinner text, essentially, maybe just going with medium or whatever, I know, different color. There's a lot to experiment with. The most important thing here is always centered. So you will see with the grids in the background as well. It's already visible, but if not, if you can always add like portion of grid, and then you can see it's like centered to the T, because then it looks the best and it's easier to read as well, especially if they're watching like on TV and all that stuff. And then we have blend in, essentially the S&P 500 companies. I just found this picture, blended it in. There's more aesthetic way, of course, to blend it in. We could have done this in Premiere Pro as well, but I just thought, why not? Just edit in here, okay? Sometimes there's like, as I said, not really, of course, there's a drop shadow, by the way, but of course, sometimes doesn't have, you know, a bigger purpose, whatever, and sometimes it's not perfect. Sometimes my methods are like not the best or not the fastest, whatever, but this is essentially just to break down like whatever works essentially here. You can also implement in your videos as well, but make it better, okay? And then we can also, of course, you know, just remove these bars here, whatever this bar is. Looks like an iPad screenshot. So this is how I actually show screen recordings. Essentially, I have the face cam somewhere so it's not too visible, it's not in the way, because otherwise, let's just say we bring the face cam all the way down here, and then we have it like here. It looks weird, okay? But if we have it like this, essentially, then it makes more sense because it has the same distance to the right side as to the bottom side, and it just looks way better in my opinion. And yeah, this is just kind of like the principle that we were going for when we had a face cam. It essentially just make sure it is properly set on the screen, so it is not creating distractions, not looking weird, and it's not creating this weird feeling, okay? And the next animation is this.
Of all the different apples, bananas, and oranges, which actually represent large companies like Apple, Amazon, Meta, Tesla. Index fund is very simple. It's pretty much just a basket of...
Yeah, so he said basket, and I took that personally, so I'm just kidding. But essentially, I took a photo of a basket, an animated photo or a cartoon photo of a basket, and I just placed, like it just scaled up these companies. And I did that by placing the anchor point at the bottom of these, or at the kind of like at the bottom part of these logos, and just scale and position up, okay? And then also just wiggling around, creating this fun-ish, like this fun, chill, like animation, essentially, okay? So yeah, this is essentially just the basket, and I'm not sure, I'm pretty much confident that I found most of these things on FreePick or whatever website, and that's what I use most of the time. And then we just essentially just cut out the, we duplicated the basket. We cut out the front part. Essentially, this is the front part, and behind the front part, we have all these these logos arriving. Other than that, it would just be on top of the basket. But we cut out just this main part and have this on top. So essentially, it looks like it's a real basket and these stocks are in them. Okay. And he mentioned Apple, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, and then we just added them in there. And you're like, you could be like, okay, well, he did not actually mention the companies right away. So why are they in the basket when he did not mention them and just later?
And more. Now, here's the thing.
It's
large companies like Apple, Amazon.
Like here's when we already started. So this essentially this animation was up for like 2-3 seconds already. It's because you can have just the point made on screen and then just have like the specific details mentioned afterwards as well. So just in case you don't know, you don't have to have like a basket on the screen that is empty for like 3 seconds and then have like all these logos coming up really, really fast right away when he says it. It doesn't have to be aligning 100% of the time when he says it exactly, okay? It can be a little bit sooner. It can be also sometimes a little bit later, just a bit. It depends on whatever the animation is and how it fits to your project and also sometimes to your branding, okay? And to your editing style. And for us, it was like, okay, sometimes we blend in stuff sooner, so people are like, okay, what is going on? What is the next part? What is he going to say? Oh, I know what he's going to say. The viewer fills it out essentially in their heads, whatever is essentially going on the screen, and adds it to whatever he is trying to say in the sentence, okay? The viewer completes the sentence in his head and he'll be like, okay, wow, I actually knew what he's going to say, okay? And these are the stocks. The viewer sees it and they're like, okay, so it's kind of like a big basket of stocks. So S&P 500 is a big basket of stocks, of Apple stock, like for example, or Amazon stock, from Meta stock, and Tesla stock. And before he even says Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla, they already have these companies in mind. Okay, and you're like, yeah, I knew that you're gonna say these because I saw it on the screen. Okay, so essentially it helps when we blend in stuff a little bit sooner before he says it. Okay, so attention doesn't work always, and sometimes blending it too late also doesn't work always. So it depends on your editing style and how it fits to your project. Okay,
this right here just shows you that right now the stock market is still picking up and all-time highs are not.
Yeah, so we added some stock footage here because it was a little bit less going on here. As you see, something is always going on this timeline. It's like not one single minute where it's not cut something B-roll, like good looking stock footage that helps the viewer understand, or animations like here, text effects. And I don't think I have to break down this text effect too much. It's the same background, green, black, white text with some deep glow on it and some drop shadows on it. And this one we can actually break down.
Compared to other investments such as treasury bonds, high yield savings accounts, and other commodities like precious metals such as silver and gold.
So this one is pretty easy actually. So I just found a bunch of icons and I added some deep glow, drop shadow, and some more saturation and also some more contrast to them, okay? Essentially every single icon here has drop shadow, deep glow, saturation, and contrast. And the way we just blended in was just scale up and opacity up. This is it. Boom, boom, boom. The same here as well. Okay? And then what we did in the middle, because he says stock market is better than all these things, we just have like the better than logo, or better than icon, or better than animation, or larger than. And this essentially just shows that this is better than all of these things like treasury bonds, bank yield, whatever, and then precious metals. And then, yeah, we just added some effects on it. We always have effects on it. The same effects, essentially just copy and paste it to every single one. As again, I would maybe just turn back down on the effects, okay? I know these are like really good fitting to the deep glow, kind of like our style and all that stuff, but it's like not looking premium enough, okay? So yeah, and then what we have here,
NVIDIA.
And then what we have
NVIDIA,
here,
Meta, Abercrombie. I mean, these are just a few examples that have been on my watch list.
So we show watch list, and these are like pretty much when someone is Googling these companies, whatever, they're going to see this. NVIDIA, you're going to see this in Google because Google is essentially showing us this exact animation, and we just took a screenshot of. The way I did to blend those in was essentially I just had a white background and I just placed, you see the screenshots that I took here, and I just placed it on top of them. And the way you can take these screenshots, NVIDIA stock, the way I do these is like make the page smaller by 150% or maybe 125%, up to you, whatever is working for you. you just make it bigger, okay? This is essentially the most key thing. Whenever you have like a news article, for example, as well, which you want to like blend in the headlight, just make it as big as possible, and but still have the same formatting. Be like this is pretty good, and I want to blend in this. So take a screenshot of this, because then the screenshot is going to be higher quality. The text on the screenshot is going to be more high quality if you like zoom in on the page, like this. Like see, this is essentially our screenshot that we took now, okay? And then look at, if we zoom out, and if we take a small screenshot, this is our screenshot now. And if we zoom in, it's like horrible. But we can achieve the same results in really good quality by just zooming in on the website in our browser, okay? By 150%, 125%, whatever works for you. And if we open this up, you see it's the same size, but it's essentially just higher quality. So just a small tip, if you want to blend in some screenshots from websites, always zoom in on the page and then maybe add some vignette on it as well, because that just looks more premium in my opinion. And yeah, so I just place it in a white background. And also, one thing I watched out is that don't have too much information in it. So if, for example, if we go back, we could have blended in this side, we could have blended in these and all that stuff. But essentially, this is not the point of this example. We just want to showcase the stock, okay? If we go here, or if we go, let's say, 1 month, 1 year, whatever it is, we just take a screenshot of this, or maybe just this. I'm not sure if you can see my MacBook screenshot tool, whatever, but yeah. So you can go from here right up from market summary, or even below that, okay? This shows NVIDIA Core, but we can maybe just blend in the text on the right side, okay? Let's take a screenshot here, and then all the way up to right below on the right side. We don't even need this bottom part, okay? And definitely not this part, definitely not feedback. These things are just so much fillers, too much information. Nobody's going to like process all that stuff so fast. Here, then the thing is like easier to process because we just have our most important things on this. Like price, you can just see that. The stock chart is most people are going to see that, and most people are going to watch that. Or the price, and then there's right the name of the company as well. And there is, of course, a little bit too much white space. So here we could have just blended in the logo of the company, or essentially the name as well. Just a couple of suggestions for the next time. And then here, next is election year. And this is one point he actually talked about or pointed out. So this is why we made a text animation here. And we had some, essentially a Trump footage, essentially, or clip, whatever, B-roll of him. Just a bit darker with a vignette on it, and then some gauche blur on it. And then just essentially the text arriving on top of it, okay? And just a little bit of zoom out within the clip itself, which looks pretty good. So this is essentially just a showcase election year. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to animate Trump. You don't have to have an AI animation of Trump. If it doesn't fit the branding, you can just also blend in something like this. And here, for example, just for a little bit of tips on screen recordings and all that stuff. So here we have a screenshot essentially, and we have it on widescreen. A screenshot that is pretty much filling out the space, and then of course a vignette, and of course also the face cam. And one thing also is make sure that this doesn't blend in with the most important text part. So here it just doesn't cover essentially the most important part. If I would have placed it here, it would have essentially blocked out the S&P 500 text, which is important. If I would have placed it here, it would have blended out essentially all the most important facts. If I would have placed it here, well, it would have actually worked better, or maybe not, because then we have covered the 2021. So we don't want that. So this here essentially covers the most less. So yeah, this corner is the best actually. And of course also the animation itself is a bit positioned down. So in this case, it works pretty good. Sometimes you don't have to blend in the face cam, but here he talks about long, so we don't have to have no face cam on it when he talks about it. So this is why we have a face cam here. Then we have, of course, more footage of Trump, and we have two things blended out here with some masking. So if you can catch this, we have the mask here and the mask here placed on top of it. Essentially taken from here or here. You can even see it. There's like this part is double here, okay? But you would have never noticed it if I would have told it, okay? Because this is how powerful masking is. It blends out the annoying logos of all these companies or these TV broadcasting services, whatever it is. And next animation is 719. So essentially I don't have the background stock footage file for this in After Effects, but essentially this is just the stock footage probably blurred out and just a bit darkened on the background and also multiplied. It's some stock footage, some graph chart, stock candle footage, whatever. And then what we had here in the background, I think this is an animation that I just reused from a previous video. So what I did here essentially is I had this wave or this rectangle, whatever it was, and then I had the stroke color go from yellow to essentially all the way to green. And and then of course between that we had also red. Let me just set this to auto. So yeah, essentially we had this big shape layer that had this glow effect and also this wiggle path effect. Essentially, this is what this does with this wiggle effect here. So I don't have the files for the background, whatever stock footage it was, multiply. It was a stock chart probably. Yeah, it was a stock exchange market footage with multiply effect on it and probably also low opacity. No, it was the same opacity with some saturation and Gaussian blur. So it was blurred out in the background. I couldn't find it, couldn't locate it. It's probably somewhere in the disk, but it just can't find it somewhere because of some reason. I'm not sure why. But yeah, and then we have essentially just this box that is filling up, and then we have like taxes and then company earnings going up. I can't tell you why or whatever he was talking about in the video itself, but something is about the tax go lower and the company earnings go up, okay? And then we had essentially a stroke that was really thick and then goes from up to down a bit. So from 35% to 26%, so the taxes go down, which is good probably. And then we had also this white outline around the stroke as well, just to showcase kind of like a bottle or whatever rectangle that is filled up or not filled up. And then we have the company earnings the same way, just with different color. And this has also fill color added to it. Not sure why I just did not stay with the stroke color, but yeah. Then we had taxes, also deed and bold again. So we had a couple of font issues here in this project, but like consistency issues with font. Looking at it from like after view perspective. So yeah, and then this is it. So it's pretty easy to create stuff like this. You just need the stroke, since you go from here to here, and then you need to create a box essentially around the stroke, or vice versa. And then it just gives some trim path to the stroke that goes from 40% to 20, and this goes from like 60% to 80% or 90%. And this is essentially it. So one goes down, one goes up. This is essentially the core concept here. Next animation. So we also don't have the footage here for the background, but it's not an issue because we have the same animation here as well. Inflation goes up. I don't think this is censored. Like this doesn't look censored, but not an issue. And we have the stock market that is going down. So inflation goes up, stock market goes down, and then inflation goes down, and we have stock market goes up. So, and then we also have in the background the same animation that is just complementing whatever we are saying. So we have like this big thing that goes down, just go from up to down, and this is essentially just wiggle path. Okay, let me show you. This is this here. This is what essentially gives this wavy feeling. Okay, and we have also a path created, or a rectangle essentially created, like going from here all the way to here. This is essentially a big rectangle or a big, I would say, shape. So, and here we have a radial gradient on this shape. Essentially here at the top we have red, and at the bottom we have essentially just black, okay? Because we just want to give it such a cool look, okay? But we didn't, we want to give this kind of like a chart, or kind of like this some apps have it essentially, some trading apps, some stock apps, or some crypto exchanges have it as well, where they have these modern looking stock charts that go like this without the candles, and we just kind of wanted to replicate that. And we have this stroke color that goes essentially to the red, and it's 125. That is just actually just giving this beautiful outline here. But yeah, most of the things are created by the wiggle path, the most of this wiggly effect, and then we just essentially just adjust the path going from up to down, and then going back up when we talk about inflation going down and stock market going up, and then we switch the color from red to green here, essentially, like the stroke color, and also the gradient fill color here as well. So here at this point, you'll see the color essentially changes from red to green, and also the path goes up. Right, so this is the next animation. And again, we have some motion here, some scaling here.
Right now, make the stock market look even.
NASDAQ, he's talking about NASDAQ, so we're showing the NASDAQ. Silicon Valley Bank, we're showing the Silicon Valley Bank. This didn't need motion because it had already some motion. This had also some motion as well because it's just one clip. Zooming in on headlines. At this point, I'm just kind of like speedrunning because it's a 1 hour video and we just broken down 10 minutes of it within this time frame. So here, for example, we have manipulated data. I think it's the next one. Yeah. So we had essentially just manipulated. It's kind of like you're like a puppet master, essentially. And it's just playing with puppets. So people who are manipulating are playing with you, essentially. Like these puppets, okay? Within these traditional puppet shows, okay? And we essentially just took the stock footage from motion array, and I just added some darkness to it, some less exposure, some vignette, and some blur to it, and then we just had some text appearing on it. This essentially, and some zoom, I think, as well, like on the text. The text had some zoom. This is how you can essentially also just showcase stuff. Then the next one is gross domestic product. So he's talking about the GDP, what this means, gross domestic product, and then we had some stock footage in the background. This with the text and with the stock footage in the background solution we just came up with my mentor. He was like, let's just add some visual interest to this video and also some visual interest to the text only animations as well, just by adding some stock footage essentially in the background that fits to what he's talking about, that fits to the animation, and then essentially just add the text on top and just blur it out in the background, or just turn down the opacity in the background as much as possible so the text is still in the foreground, but the background is still also a part of the animation itself, so it looks interesting, okay? And here we achieved that on the T to the T. GDP, we wrote out what it means, and we also had some GDP elements, essentially just stock elements, not stock footage, but stock in stocks, okay? Investing elements in the background. And we had a lot of these elements here as well, these markets and all that stuff. If we talked about stocks, so we had a lot of elements like these, and also a lot of screenshots here that look super clean. Again, for the screenshots, just to break down, another one is this is an image, and we had some vignette on it, and we essentially had this screenshot, but we had some background to it, and then this is why it looks so clean. And we placed the face cam essentially that way that it also looks good and it doesn't cover anything. Super important here as well. We placed the face cam a bit different this time. It is not covering anything, and it is the most important part. So sometimes we just break rules in order to help the viewer like just see information on screen as much as possible. And yeah, here as well, it is pretty easy and simple, like fade up character or fade up. And here we just have like some fade up character animations, so I don't have to break this down, I think. We just have like the face cam enabled on it as well. The reason we have the face cam enabled on this is because it's kind of like a calculation. We just animated it out, okay? What I would also do here is remove the effects on the animation, essentially. So it just doesn't look off, okay? And remove the deep glow maybe as well, because it should look like kind of like it fits into with his face cam, or add deep glow to his face cam. That could have been probably the easiest. Just take his face cam, export it into import it into After Effects, and then just adding deep glow to it. That would have fit a bit better. It sounds silly, but it just kind of like feels better rather than just having all these noise on this background and animation, and the face cam has not any single effect from that. Also, one thing about A-cam, zoom-ins, and all that stuff, I think this part here pretty much tells it really good. So let me just play it. So this is essentially the normal size, the normal scale, 64, and yeah, this is essentially a 4K recording, 4K camera, whatever. And this is whatever it looks like whenever we switch back to completely normal, no zoom-ins, no B-cam, no nothing. This is just the normal talking head, essentially resolution, the scale, 64. And then if we want to switch the B-cam, we do it right after we blend in the A-cam.
Wanting to invest in the market. This is because the way I see it, everything is an opportunity. Given the context of how resilient the stock...
And then we switch back to the same camera angle, 64 scale, and then we go...
...and how strong the U.S. government has been, and even more given the long-term horizon.
And then we zoom in by 10, we always zoom in by the same amount. So if we decide to zoom in for this project by 10 from 64 to 74, then what we do is we always zoom in to 74. We don't zoom in to 72 next time, and then after that to 80, whatever. We zoom into 74, and if we want to zoom in after that even more, then we can also get a number for that, okay? But always also stay consistent with the third level of zoom in. So the second level of zoom in here is like 74, or like the first level of zoom in, I guess, at this point. And we zoom in, and we never zoom out to 64. Like what you will see here is like we also have like this motion zoom in, and here we zoom in with the anchor point. We already covered that in the last video. And here we zoom in not with the anchor point, but with the position. So when we always add motion, but that's not the point. The point I want to make here is we always try to hide the cut. So you see here, A cam, we have the B cam that hides the jump cut, we have the A cam again, and then we have the zoom in that hides the jump cut, and then we have the zoom out and the slow, we zoom again out, and then we have the slow zoom in motion, zoom in essentially. I'm not sure what we should just call it, but essentially this motion zoom in. And yeah, so my point is try to hide the cut as much as possible, and you can do this by switching to B cam if you have any. It is pretty easier by just switching to the B cam, and you don't always also want to just switch from A cam to B cam all the time, but you can also just add in some zoom ins. From B cam, we have the normal camera again, zoom in, and then also the from 64 to 74 motion zoom in as well added. So we always want to hide the cut with a zoom in, or with a camera change, or with some animations, or with some B-roll as much as possible. We never cut, like here at least, we never cut it. You can see there's always like when we have a jump cut and there is no animation after that or everything after that, we have a zoom in or a camera change. And when we don't have a camera, we essentially just zoom in, as you see, or zoom out again. And we do that pretty much like throughout the whole channel, okay? We do that to the whole channel, and we never have like this jump cuts where we don't have any zoom ins, some camera changes, whatever. We always have something, okay? It's just one thing that we did, okay? And it sounds weird, but essentially it looks so much better in my opinion as well. And just from a logic perspective as well, we just want to hide the jump cuts as well. And of course it's more engaging, and of course it's also a little bit more faster. So if you're pacing, or if it doesn't align to your channel, to the brand, to your identity, then it doesn't make sense to do it, of course, to apply the same thing. But what we did essentially is just always hide the jump cut. We never essentially what jump cut means is when you cut from this point to just this point. This is a jump cut essentially, where we cut in between. This is what it would look like normally, what normally the people use essentially what in the editing, compared to what we do very aggressively visible jump cuts. So it's like boop boop, okay? But what we do essentially is boom, we zoom in. It's kind of like it creates a better flow for the video. That was the kind of like the explanation I was searching for. So it creates like a better flow. It's like zoomed in, zoomed out. You make the point clear. You highlight the point with the zoom in, and then you zoom out again, and then you hide the cut with that as well. And yeah, so this is just essentially just one principle that we used, okay? The next one is how much money can you make? Again, with the stock footage in the background and blurred it out, less exposure, and then we have some scaling on the text, okay? Don't need to break down all of these animations essentially, just to break it down for the breakdown's sake. It doesn't make sense to waste your time with the same animations with just a little bit of colors change, okay? And here what we have is essentially this picture of Einstein with some masking, essentially. We masked him out. We had some feather added to it, so it looks really clean. And then what we did essentially just blend in the text, which looks super, super bad compared to whatever this is. What we've done is maybe write in a font that fits to quotes, okay? So whatever quote font there is, we've just done it, something like this, like handwritten-ish looks. And maybe like Daniel Bold looks super bad. Maybe something like this, but minus this weird drop shadow. So, and also minus this weird color. Something that fits essentially the vibe. I would have just tested it out until it fits the vibe, okay? Because the text looks super horrible. But essentially how we blended in Einstein looks really good, okay? So this looks super clean, but the text, it just destroys it, okay? So, but yeah, this is how we actually showcase a quote. Make sure it also looks aesthetically as the other video as well, and it fits to the branding as well. And then we have this animation, 21. Oh yeah, this is also just a calculation. Boom, minus 4K, boom. And then we have just two logos blending in. What I would suggest sometimes is just have also some logos additionally to the text on screen, like here, for example, or on the left side, whatever. Not only calculations itself, but rather just if you have like bullet points, whatever, have like always some symbols added next to it, okay? Because other than that, just text just looks so boring to read. Like, when is the last time you have read a news article? But when is the last time you have watched a video? Or when is the last time you saw like on a train or whatever outside a logo and you were like, you just recognized it and you like subconsciously know what that logo means. It's like danger, you know the logo. And you can just add logos essentially to the text so the text looks more appealing to read and also easier to understand. So other than that, we have 1K in the bank and then 10K saved, whatever. So right now I don't even have listened to the video. I don't even know what he's talking about. But essentially, whatever, 1K in like here, like 1K in the bank and then 10K saved, or like 1K that you pay down or whatever it is, and then just 10K saved or something like that. Here, for example, I just want to give like a quick help here. So here, another really good positioning here, but it also kind of like makes sense because we want to have this more to the middle as well, and kind of like blend out this this logo here, essentially at the bottom, and it just looked better, I think, this way. So this is why I picked it. So yeah, but nevertheless, the main part is that we have the face cam on the right, and on the left, the main part is going on, like what he's changing and what he's talking about. And yeah, so we don't interfere, essentially, we don't interfere at all within what is going on the screen with our face cam. We still have the face cam on if the people want to see him. Again, we have some stock footage in the background. Really boring actually, but with the text on it, it looks good. With the settings here, it looks good and it serves a good purpose. And then we have misconceptions, which we color dark in the background, and we have like this money, this Benjamin Franklin probably zoomed in dollar bill, and then misconception one: I need a lot of money to make any real money investing. So essentially, this here we broke down some misconceptions. So this is why I read, because people have like these misconceptions, which is bad. Because then you probably are gonna have wrong information. So essentially, this is wrong information, and this is why it's red. Okay, and if you have like a brand, like for example, if you have like a branding color, like that is blue and dark, like blue and black, for example, and with white text, that is your animation branding. Okay, and then you have you talk about misconceptions or failures or whatever it is, then it's okay to change the color from blue to red. Okay, because it gives a different theme and it's easier to kind of like categorize the video as well in those chapters. Like, okay, now I talk about the misconceptions, and the next chapter is about how I teach you, and before that it could be also blue and be like my story, misconceptions, how it's done actually. Okay, so this could be blue, and this is just how the video could be also structured easily. But if it's like blue all the way through the video and we don't split up these things with the right colors, then it's also a little bit confusing for the viewer essentially just to look through the video, skip through the video again. So it just kind of like splits up the video and it makes it look a bit easier for the viewer just to understand it better, essentially, okay? And yeah, then we have, all right, so this here is also really interesting. So this one is the next one. Essentially, this is just an image that I cut out probably in Photoshop because I can still see the outlines. So make sure when you're animating and blending in pictures from real world that you cut out in Photoshop and whatever After Effects, make sure that don't do the same mistake as I do. Please cut out also the white edges around it. There is probably a better way to cut these out, so please just do it because otherwise it just looks so off. And yeah, so here what we did is essentially just blend in this picture with this text, essentially. That is it, okay? So he talked probably about it or something, and we just had this image that we cut out, we just scaled in, okay? This is not the most perfect work. I think I was just trying to speed it up here. Because sometimes in a day, I had to edit like 10 minutes of video, with animations, with B-roll, with all that stuff added, and I had to move super fast in order to get these videos done, and it was kind of like you either you speed up stuff or you either use shortcuts or whatever, or you just get left behind, or you just won't achieve your goal in hitting this the deadline. Okay, so this is essentially really tight deadline, and it's like a long video. Okay, even just rendering takes like a lot of time. Just I can just tell you that. But yeah, again, we have a misconception here of some working B-roll, and you see sometimes that I have these things here rendered out as well. Like these are rendered out images from these compositions. This is because of one specific reason. Now I don't know whatever issue happened with Premiere Pro and After Effects back then, like a year ago, but sometimes when I rendered out stuff, the problem was that the rendering just stopped rendering. So if I render out something in Media Encoder, I usually nowadays only render in Premiere Pro, don't really use Media Encoder that much, except when it's just rough cuts and it's like, let's just say there was like 8 course lessons, whatever. I just render them out in Media Encoder in one batch, so I don't have to render all one by one. So it's like kind of like easier for me. But if it's like a big animated video, like whatever 20 minutes animated video, then I just actually render it out in Premiere Pro and just click on export. Don't send it to Media Encoder, for me at least. And it's just what I found to be the best. It could have been maybe because of effects. It could have been maybe because of something else or some specific stuff. I don't really know whatever the issue was, but now I don't have this issue anymore. But yeah, essentially the issue was that sometimes with whatever composition that we had here on the timeline, it just stopped rendering out that specific composition. It just didn't want it to continue rendering, or sometimes it also, I think, was an offline media file. So what I figured it was just, okay, let me add all these issues into the export on After Effects, or let me export all of these animations, and then I just place it on top of Premiere Pro, and I just send it to Media Encoder that way, so it just renders out the whole timeline, essentially, which is kind of tedious, and it took a lot of time to render the videos. So finally, we just have a solution for that, or I guess maybe there is no solution for that and still doing the same thing, but I don't know it because I render out in Premiere. And then here we have just logos that we scale up. I don't want to go too much into this. Probably like whatever how you would like to learn, like maybe videos, maybe through books, courses, and yeah, some stock footage essentially. Oh yeah, let's what is the stock market? This is stock footage again in the background with some white text on it. And here we have essentially a AI animation that we're going to break down. So comp 28, we have an AI animation here. So I think he talks about bazaar, I think.
Well, imagine the stock market as a giant buzzing marketplace. And in this marketplace, instead of buying and selling things like fruits or clothes, people buy and sell shares of different companies. These shares are...
Yeah, so these are 2 AI animations back to back, essentially. So let's break it down. So we have this, let me open up this picture, essentially. So we cut out the people here, the main people. We cut out some fruits here, essentially. And then we cut out the background itself, okay? And yeah, this is just essentially just how AI replaced them, which is pretty insane, essentially. AI can do these things. It's still day-to-day insane to me how AI does this. It's such an easier work. I can't explain to you how much easier my work is since Photoshop AI. It is insane. And not even that, just creating these AI images and all that stuff. It's just so insane. And just insane like how long it's outside and people still don't know how to use it. Yeah, we have some more tutorials on that on the channel and also in this course as well. Yes, essentially we just cut out all these people with the AI and we just had some movement added to them, some scale, and of course also some saturation and also some glow added to them as well. This is essentially the animation, okay? So we cut out the people in Photoshop, we add some saturation to it, and because he says buzzing like marketplace, so kind of like people can like think better about it when it has like some parables. Parables are essentially kind of like side stories or something that you can compare the point that you're making with as easy as possible for the viewers to understand. So he says marketplace because many people have been to a marketplace probably in their lives where they can buy fruits and all that stuff or just used items maybe. And essentially this is like a marketplace. Instead of trading with fruits or whatever, they're trading with stocks. So there's a marketplace. There are like companies selling all these things, and people can go there and just trade with them. And we have just essentially the people scaling in a little bit different than the background, and the fruits are scaling in a little bit different than the people or the background. So we have all these scales in, but they are essentially just a little bit more delayed from each other, or like a little bit different from each other. So it creates this little bit of depth effect. I think the people have a little bit too much scale. I think the fruits should have a little bit more scale and just have less zoom in on the people. But yeah, okay, and we also have this little particle effect, like you would be outside, you know, this particles, dust, to create this more 3D-ish effect. All right, and then yeah, saturation and deep glow on it to make this image in this video more saturated, like buzzing marketplace. So yeah, same here, we have some saturation and some deep glow on it. And here as well, we have some saturation and deep glow on these. And for these are essentially also, I know that this took a couple of tries to actually create this very exact animation, and this looks so weird, and it, like, it doesn't look like real. It's not like a real picture. It's animated and all that stuff, and it's not based on a real scenario either. But it just looked so insane to me that I was like, well, let's just pick that, because it kind of also like makes the point correct, but it just looks like so insane. But it also fits to the one before, because it's kind of like the same saturated, same a lot of colors, a lot of, how should I say it, appealing colors going on the screen. And of course, it's not the same branding and all that stuff, so it's kind of like meh, the style and also the quality of the image as well. But yeah, and what we did essentially was we had this picture and we corrected this essentially with the AI, so we can finally cut out or essentially remove some stuff and essentially have this front row removed, so we can go back into and place this into After Effects and then have like a 3D effect on the front row as well. So you can see here like the front row is like going up a bit. It has like this very depth effect, and also this dust as well added into it, and also different dust as well. So two different types of dust added into here as well. Some deep glow and some saturation again. And yeah, so kind of like to showcase, to kind of like the picture that people should have, like a bazaar or like a marketplace, and then it's just with stocks. So people have like these stock charts and all that stuff in one room, and people trade with stocks, kind of like from home. So we could have maybe made like a home AI animation of someone who's sitting home and trading. But yeah, this essentially just helped to make the point more clear, and it also looked better in my opinion. But yeah, and this one also looks really simple to make. So we just pop up all these three icons, and then we have a wiggle effect on the text, all in caps, which is weird. And then we have just a trim path going from with this line from left to right. Very simple to showcase how dividends work. We have a company that pays money to the people, and the money is called dividends. Oh, this one is also really cool. What I actually do nowadays is actually just take the clip itself and I just replace that with the After Effects composition. So kind of like duplicating the clip and then replacing it with After Effects composition. So we have a backup of the clip if anything happens, and we also have the clip in After Effects itself, so we can edit on top of it. Because I experienced sometimes that if I place essentially some deep glow on the text, so too much deep glow, then it can essentially just look weird on the footage itself if we don't have the footage in After Effects. So if we add deep glow and just have it essentially below this here. So for this animation, essentially what we did is we blended up dark gradient here. Like this here has white, but it's actually 0 opacity. And this one is essentially 100% opacity, and it's black or dark gray-ish. And what we did is use this as a mask, and we had essentially the background that we used before on these whatever animations here, like these backgrounds. We essentially just masked it, as you can see, to this part, to this little mask here. So essentially it creates this look that the background is here, and yeah, then we had just the text on top appearing character by character probably. Yeah, and we also added some positioning here as well. Gives like a subtle like elements from the previous animations, essentially the same background. So yeah, you can just try it out and use it for yourself. Maybe just try out this exact animation, like this little trick. One thing you could also do is essentially just mask out this specific part here. So just here arrives this black texture. Then maybe you can just create like an even cooler effect from that. So essentially the black gradient hit down here doesn't go from left to right all the way, but only here at this point. It's only just visible here. So we can mask out this part with this and essentially kind of like make this smaller here. And then you will have a different outcome, which I can't show you because it's a different composition here. I'm not really trying to get as much detail to fix the whole video. I'm just giving you some tips and tangible tricks that you can use and tangible principles that you can use for your videos. If I would just break down a whole video, then recreate the video and all that stuff, we would sit here for like again for a week, okay, and then make like 5-8 hour episodes of this, okay. We don't want to do that because I'm not sure how much it helps you in your process, so we don't want to do that. So here we have also again a animation that we just essentially had the face cam placed on top of it, so this is why it's down here. Now it also, like the mess, looks less messy when we break it down bit by bit, because it all has its own like reason why it's there. Here, for example, we have again presentation. We try to make the face cam smaller, as much smaller as possible, but don't too cramped in the corner, and also as big as possible if we can. And we essentially just have it like in one place. Essentially, we don't move it from top to bottom and all that stuff. We just have it in one specific space. And then what we do here is we just have some icons that presents the stocks. Essentially, we have microcap stocks that are less than 300 million, and there's just for fun a lemonade stand. It's kind of like your first business, so this is why we picked that. And then we had the little stores. Then we have bigger buildings, and we have like this massive corporate buildings, like these big Empire State buildings, whatever. And that's like large caps, like 10+ billion. Okay, we have 300 million, 2 billion. So yeah, this is essentially what we're just showcasing here. And we're just switching also sometimes back to the camera. It's like he's referring to this video, so this is why we blend in this video. I think this is like a clip that a lot of people saw, and I saw it as well, like just recently did that. And I was like, well, let me just download that clip that many people saw and just place that clip in, okay? And yeah, because here he was actually selling those penny stocks, because he was mentioning, or microcap stocks he was mentioning in the video. So we just blended in exactly that spot where this dude was selling in the video, in the film, these stocks, okay? So yeah, many people who watched that movie probably can remember this scene, so that's why. Just relatable to the audience. Some footage. Also make sure to blend in the most important part of the footage as well, because if the footage is also distracting, then it's really bad. So I can just recommend to you, if you want to have some ideas on what B-roll you want to blend in, what is a good B-roll, if you want to improve your B-roll game, I don't think there is much to do except you go and watch videos which have good B-roll. So for us, we had a lot of B-roll in the videos. Nothing is perfect, of course, but I can just recommend to you just to, like, what is this? Just to watch through the video itself. Yeah, the videos that we have edited essentially on this channel. You can just recommend it, watch it through for yourself, and just see for yourself, okay, what is something that I can take away from this video? Like, how does he blend in the B-roll or the animations, whatever. This was for example, like that I picked from a video essentially. Just downloaded from a video straight up because I didn't want it to just find that clip and do it again. I also didn't want to open up the Premiere timeline as well, so I just went ahead and just downloaded the video and just essentially just added in, okay, which is pretty funny. Some more B-roll, and here again back to the essentials. So we have like zoom in, we switch to the B cam, we have this 64 scale, and then we zoom in. We hide the cuts all the time. Here as well, 64 B cam, and then zoom in. And yeah, it's also really clean how we zoom in, and then we just, oh no, it wasn't clean. No way. We had this issue in the video. I'm pretty sure we don't have that. Do we have that? Oh, we have that. Okay, because it's downloaded from the video. Yeah, sometimes mistakes like these happen. So even if the biggest channels on the world have these issues sometimes. So yeah, these are essentially just some QR codes that I just essentially just edited in Photoshop and just cut in some B-roll. And here again, see how easy it is to follow the screen because there's not too much going on. Really, simplicity is the key here. We just focus on the most important part. Free bonus, that's what he is focusing on. Here, claim free stocks. I just see like all these mistakes that I did before, but I said deadline is short. Mistakes happen. It's all good. I won't be like up at night because of that. But yeah, essentially so easy to follow. Like this is what he won. But there could be like a big website around it, you know, but we don't want to blend that website in. We just want to blend in his rewards, what he's talking about, what he's referring to in the video. And then we have some essentially just a phone outline here. Let me just actually show that. It is actually so easy to achieve this. A B cam essentially. And then on the left side we have the phone outline. And then we had the screen recording. And then we had the screen recording, I think, masked out. No, we didn't mask it out, but essentially we had a black video behind it. I'm not sure why, but yeah. Essentially also black video behind it to kind of like create this dark gradient here as well, just to make the phone like more contrasty and blur out the background a bit. Like not blur out the background, but blend out the background a bit. Okay, to have this the background in the background and the phone in the main part in the front essentially. Here as well, just zoom in on the most important part. Don't show everything. Yeah, so here we have just essentially just phone clips most of the time, and then here we have also animation 35. This is going to be probably the last animation that we're going to break down. So let's see. So here's again what we could have done here better. It's essentially just rectangles that have text on it, and they just essentially just scale up like the path scale, whatever. And then essentially we have just text on it. What could have done here better is maybe have like this little icon, whatever, goals icon, investing icon here on the left, end up like your your finish line icon, how long can you invest, so like time frame icon, like this clock time, whatever. What is your time horizon, and how much can you invest, like the money bag or whatever money. What is the preferred way? What is your preferred way to invest? Maybe you can have like a phone there, or maybe we can have like a Bitcoin there, essentially, or maybe we can have like a essentially just stock chart there as well. And then what we have is like some presentations, essentially explaining everything. I did not make the presentations; these were just screen recording, and yeah, this is essentially also really good to present my timeline as well. Just real quick. So we talked about this in the previous video, but I'm not sure if I was super clear, because in the previous video there was like a lot going on as well. So usually how I color my timelines, and I have also this very thing written out in my SOP, is I have the A and B cam in the 10 color. This is the 10 color always, and the main audio, not the camera audio, but the main audio from the microphone is also in 10 color. Sometimes I keep the backup of the audio, sometimes I don't. Usually nowadays I do, but you don't have to. So I have the camera audio, whatever backup audio I have, usually offline, sometimes blue, this iris color, whatever it is. By the way, screen recording is iris color, so it's kept normal, like how you import it. We don't touch the color here on the screen recording, like at least if you don't have to. And then we have the face cam. Whenever we have face cam blending in, that is green, okay? This face cam here is always colored green on a timeline, so you can always see whatever you are using, essentially. A and B cam 10, main audio 10 color, and then the face cam is green color, and the screen recording is blue color. And whatever comes on the top is like whatever color, okay? B-roll could be blue, whatever. I don't color these. These are just on top. You can color these if you want to as well, but you don't have to if you don't want to as well. Here we have just some regular animations which I did not make. I had this in my template when I started working for this channel. So common starfish, and then we have some blend in essentially. Yeah, this is it. This is the video essentially. So yeah, now let's break down the sound design. So let's blend in the video, and let's just listen to it without the person talking, without the character talking. Alright, so let's break down the music first for all of these chapters essentially. So we have our music colored magenta, and essentially for this main part, I've used this music a lot actually, but actually it just fitted so well, so I just picked it again. This is essentially from Music Bed. It's called Floris Folia Mattia Turzo, okay? and the drop essentially starts right when we switch from the animation to the stock footage, not stock footage, but the B-roll, okay? To the next clip, essentially, there's something new happening, so we also switched up the music. The music in the first minute can be very, very detrimental on how much, like, on retention rate, essentially, for the first couple of seconds. I'm not sure about the stats on these videos. I don't have the stats on these videos, like how they performed, essentially in retention rate, CTR, whatever, or watch time, but we have seen it works because it has 2 million views, and it's like, I think, the third most viewed video on the channel to this date. Like, it's the fourth most viewed video on the channel to this date, so it is, yeah, it was pretty successful, okay? And it will grow essentially as well more towards the years, but yeah. All right, so, and then we go from here. We switch the music essentially very slowly, so we blend out this here, and we blend in essentially this music here, which is called Marvel No O version. So there is like no, like, these weird vocals added into the video. It's essentially an instrumental called Marvel, okay? Oh, this is such a clean. This music is like kind of like made for this video. It gives me this feeling, at least. Like, it gives like sense of hope. Like, here we had like all these negative things mentioned in the video. What vibe do we want to like give to the viewer? Like, boom, and we have like this vibe where these most powerful men in this world, like, actually, like, powerful but most well known, like, people in this world, like, meeting and all that stuff. Very epic stuff, very bad stuff as well. We had pandemic happening here. We had the, like, people who are going broke. The debt rate is going, like, people have more debt and all that stuff. And then this is essentially just such a dark music. Like, this is like kind of like you're in war. It gives you like kind of like this is kind of like this tense feeling, okay? And then when we have this music coming up, we have from chaos we go to opportunity, and this is also what the music here tells you as well. Like, you go from chaos to opportunity, if this makes sense. So this all here like is more kind of like uplifted music. How should I say it? It gives you actually hope, or some sort of hope feeling when you listen to this, and it just feels really fitting to this video, because we had from broke to wealthy, we had the opportunity. So this is kind of like the transition that we showcase here in the video, that people can see. Personal branding essentially is also important here, because we show all the success that he had. People don't care about you as a person, but about seeing themselves in the same things that you have. So the same car that you have. Nobody cares who's driving the Ferrari. People care like that they should also drive the Ferrari. That they also want to drive the Ferrari, or also drive this super luxurious car. They also want to have this setup, this room, this house, this yacht, whatever. They don't care about the person who achieved that. They care more about essentially seeing themselves in this person doing the same things, if this makes sense. Okay? Nobody cares about you. It cares about whatever you have achieved, so they can essentially achieve the same thing for them. So yeah, essentially this is what we also show here as well. Like, who can see themselves in these things, doing the same things. And stop of the music, kind of like a fade out. We had some loud fade out essentially, and then we switch the music because he says
dollars. More specifically, when it came to investing, I first started this journey about 10.
So let's just say again.
Now look,
hear it again.
I grew up in a Korean immigrant family with not much to our name, so I can assure you that I didn't have
kind of like sentimental fade
this
out.
trust.
It's so good because it's kind of like sentimental. He talks about how he grew up poor and then or not with so much money.
The dollars. More specifically, when it came,
then he talks about his own story, and we switched the music because not only because our previous music ended in a really good fitting way, by the way, but also because he just talks about how his life was, or how he discovered investing. And this is also what this music kind of like as well tells the viewer as well, like how his life was before. Like this music is kind of like this it's called Wallflower, by the way, also from Music Bed. Everything is from Music Bed that we used. And this is the perfect background music for telling about your story in a humble way, essentially. And we have this music going on, and we fade it out, and we have again some more faster paced. It's called Coast Colin, and it's just
Truly,
what he says.
times I lost money, but essentially, at the end of the day, it was all a gamble. It wasn't until I went from gambling as a beginner to
And then we have this music, like his transition music. He went from gambling to this, you know, successful person, and he was successful in investing and all that stuff. So this is what we showcase with this music as well. He talks about all these things, like his account went from whatever, he went up 50k to 130k, then to 500k, and then we have this. I think this is constant gain. Yeah, we have a constant gain transition effect essentially added to here. Sometimes I do this to because of course there was like a lot more here, okay? But we don't need that. But I want to actually have the track ending here. So the end of the track being here. Because the fade out was just so good. It fitted so good. Let me turn on essentially the talking as well.
Video is tremendous, and that is at least if you really want to make money investing into the stock market. So in this video, I'll go over why now is the most important time to be in the market. So in this video, I'll go over why now is the most.
We have essentially, we already broke down this part here, but yeah, the music fades out. We have like a couple seconds, like 1 or 2 seconds of like no music.
So in this video, I'll go
essentially the low pass when he starts with the first chapter, which is essentially the table of contents, okay? So with that being said, this was the music. Now let's get to the sound effects in the start, in the beginning. So let's just mute this talking and also mute the music parts as well. All right, so we have a slight whoosh essentially, and also kind of like this tense tones of hope. Like it's kind of like this tense tone that we add into this video when we start. And then we have kind of like a whoosh. It's called whoosh sweep. And then we have a whoosh sharp when we switch essentially to the screen. Okay. And then next is these two. These two windows arrive. So we have like these machine swipe and also this down like tone essentially that we use to when these windows arrive essentially. And we also have this tones of hope again in this part. So we had this in the beginning and we kept it all the way to when this animation ended, okay? So this is essentially just so essentially just gives you the mood that you are essentially on this PC and all that stuff. You don't really hear because the music is really loud. Really subtle, like the tones of hope is really slow. And next what we have here is, and then we have a riser essentially. When we switch from chaos to opportunity, then we have the riser stop. So this is a riser long, it's called. And then what we have here, we have a slight whoosh incoming, and also a whoosh growl. It sounds kind of like when you're coming from the outside in, and it's like snowing outside or whatever, or it's like cold outside, it's like windy outside. This is what this sound effect actually shows. And we have also this stress bell. You're broke, so you're stressed, kind of like bell. That fitted pretty good, I think. It was just a bit too fast, like the animation. And then we have also a riser we have right before we switch to wealthy. So then we have the wealthy here, and then we have this impact ambience, or yeah, impact ambience inside it's called. And then next we have the stress chills. I kind of like these sound effects, so this is why I added them, and it kind of like also fitted. I just want to have something that switches in between the broke and wealthy as well, and it kind of like gives a kind of like contrast sound as well. Like one is this, and the other one when you switch, it's like a different sound. Now this is a very slow, like all build up it's called, but it's kind of like a swoosh or like an incoming sound essentially, because this thing here, this golden ticket is incoming. A bang, some Y as well. Just to initiate that this is actually like a how should I say, an animation. Let's just play it all. Yeah, just we also had a glitter effect, which is kind of like this shine when you see here going through the paper, but somehow it couldn't find it on the PC, so we just have it offline here, which looks super weird on the timeline, but it is what it is. So essentially this is the most of the animations so far in this video. After that, we just have some more sound effects for a couple of animations here. Like, for example, we have this here. A riser and kind of like a whoosh for these that fitted the best. Essentially, I have like a large folder of sound effects here, as you can see, but I don't have them also always in the Premiere profile. I actually have a folder itself on my PC and also my SSD, I think, and I just drag it into Premiere when I am actually adding sound design. Before that, it doesn't make sense to add too many sound designs. I actually should also remove this probably, because it doesn't make too much sense again, and because it just slows down your program, I think, in all in all. Now this was a stress bell. Because of gamble, it's bad, it's negative, so we add some stressing sounds. Impact flute and epic coming. That's the sound effect called. Epic coming in. Yeah, this is some impact glinster. S&P 500 had the impact electron one. Yeah, these doesn't fit always. Here we'll add some basket sounds, whatever, or some pop sounds maybe. Election year. But yeah, manipulate data and had some impact strange. That's the name of the sound. So yeah, these are essentially just some sound effects that we used, and I did not use music throughout the whole video. What I did essentially is just use music throughout the first, like, what, 22 minutes, and then once that's done, it's just, like, we don't need music throughout the whole video. I don't think it makes too much sense either, because it's a 1-hour video. If they commit it after, like, 22 minutes, they don't care if there's music, okay? If they commit for the first 5 to 10 minutes, probably they're gonna watch the whole video, right? Even if it's not today, but couple of days later, or they will come back, okay, and watch the whole video because they want to learn more about stocks, and music is just essentially just a little addition to that throughout the whole video, but we don't need that, and we don't really have too much. It doesn't make too much sense as well. So yeah, this was essentially the whole timeline. The whole insane timeline broken down actually doesn't even look that bad, okay? We have so much stuff in here because we cut always the iPhone out, like this is the iPhone footage. Then we have like 3 different layers that we added as well. So now this bulky thing, we could have nested this, of course, and then just have like this thing nested and then have this thing below it. But I mean, it's just for timeline aesthetics rather than actually usability, because if I want to adjust something fast, then I have to go into the nest, and it doesn't find it and all that stuff, then I have to copy and paste all it back and then change it there, and it's like kind of like a hustle. So yeah, this way it was yeah, I could work on this. It just looks chaotic when I open it up for the first time again. Also, why did I have like clear in and out all the time? So yeah, this was the timeline essentially, and this was the breakdown of this 2 million viewed video. And now I'm just going to grab my phone, open up the Notion page where I have some questions written out. These are the same questions as from the last video, the last breakdown. So the same question is like, how long did it take you to make this particular video? I would say in all around 7 days, I would say. But I think it was more like 6 days for the first version, and like 1 day again for the changes, and then we uploaded it. Could have been also 5 days and then 2 days for revisions. However, I think it was like the first, so 6 days essentially full of work, and then the 7th day essentially is just reworking it and then uploading it to YouTube Studio. This question is, how much creative freedom do you get? So for this video, I had, again, the same creative freedom as with all the other videos as well on this channel. And yeah, so essentially I had pretty much all the creative freedom. I just have to keep myself essentially on the principles that we have, like blending in the screenshot in the most simple and easy to understand way. And also with the animations as well, I had the same creative freedom. I just got some feedback on it that I actually had to revise that to make it look better, more simple to understand, or change out a couple of things. So essentially, I had like a lot of creative freedom on these projects, which is pretty good. Besides that, I had to blend in the presentations or whatever, which is you just have to do it because this is why the presentation is there for. It's the main part of the video, but mostly I had like all the creative freedom that I needed to make this video look really, really good and also really high quality or also really aesthetic. I had every freedom possible to make this happen. And do they provide flexible deadlines? So if this video probably we didn't have like flexible deadline at all. As I can see, it's like 7 days from where I started working on this video to where we posted this video. So there is no flexibility with these videos essentially. And when it comes to the deadlines, so do they have someone to help you out along the way? Yeah, so again, I had my mentor, who's called Ben, really good, like the best mentor I could ever had. He actually reviewed the videos and gave some feedback on it, and then I actually corrected the feedback, talked to him about it, got positive feedback, got also feedback that I should change. So I got everything along the way to make this video work a lot. So I had a lot of tools coming from him and a lot of principles and rules from him to make these videos essentially look as good as they are looking right now. So thank you to Ben again. So I guess this is a big thank you to him, this last part, because without him, I would not be here right now editing in the same quality as I'm doing right now. So yeah, with that being said, this was essentially the whole video. We broke down essentially this 2 million viewed video. I'm not sure wherever you will get something like this on YouTube, breaking down a very successful video. Every single animation, every single principle that we used, at least most of the principle that we used, because I already broke a lot of them down in the first video. So I didn't want to repeat myself here. It is a little bit different from the other one, and it was also a little bit more edited than the other one. So I think this, combined with the last lesson, these two are killer, essentially starters for editors who want to succeed, who know a little bit about After Effects and want to get to the next level, want to get their styling right, their aesthetics right, their principles right, essentially, to make the edits look really good. This breakdown, essentially what we did today, and the last breakdown, is the best starter pack that you can actually have, I guess, besides the tutorials that will follow on this module. So with that being said, I thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, please ask them in the questions tab on the community. Or if you have any more questions, please also feel free to reach out to me via DM or also tag me in the community. Please make sure if you have a question like to any specific timestamp in this course, then just mention that in specific timestamp as well, so I can just help you as easy as fast as possible. Now, also one thing, maybe some people are going to ask if I can actually share this project file, and the answer is no, because there are some sensitive data within my within this project file, like whatever sensitive data that I can have, essentially some websites or essentially some details about this person or whatever, banking stuff. I don't want to leak all of these things, so this is why I don't share any project files ever, essentially, except it's actually just created by me and it's just an animation or whatever. Don't feel confident sharing or like going through the files just to remove those things and then share that. It just takes up too much time to review and to check every single file. So this is why I don't share the project files itself, and rather I just give you guys the full possibility to ask me essentially questions if you want to know more about this. But I'm also not sure if I'm going to open up this project again like in the future. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask me. Maybe I'm not going to show you a screenshot within the timeline, because searching up this timeline, searching up all the files again, is like takes up at least an hour, which is pretty funny. Just finding this folder with all these things like the After Effects files and just loading it up and all these things just took me at least an hour, okay? At least an hour of work, And yeah, I hope you understand that this is not possible always to show the timeline on hand because the backup drive is a little bit too slow for that. It's just for storing rather than just working on it. And yeah, with that being said, I don't want to talk too much. And if you have any suggestions or any more specific topics that you want to have lessons on, also feel free to ask me about that, to mention it to me. I listen to feedback. I love feedback because this is how we grow as a community and how you can grow as well as an editor. So with that being said, we'll see you in the next lesson.